Well, hello, everybody. Lovely people. How are we doing tonight? Okay. Excited to learn more about the cool two-saw shoot. Yeah, that was a surprise, hopefully, for many people. It's like, hey, what else can you have other than this? What's better than this other than having, I don't know, I guess Earl Cossey himself here saying it, the ghost of Earl Cossey. I think Dan Gryder really pissed you off about his parachute. Well, no. I was fine with Dan Gryder. Honestly, I thought he was a bit of a almost a cartoon character a little bit with the McCoy stuff. I mean, look, he makes good documentaries. Dan's a very charismatic individual. He can even get reporters on his side who, well, I won't go there, but anyway, yeah, Dan's a charismatic guy, but just, I didn't want to, I guess the fact that he doubles down on the stupid is what bothers me the most, is that when you're confronted with actual proof, I guess where my patience wears thin with Gryder is just his inability to see it any other way than his own. His carelessness with facts, the fact that he would say, like in a video, in his last video, he says that this shoot has, he goes very quickly, goes, this shoot has Earl Cossey's signature on it. And he starts talking about the stitching. But if you're watching that and you don't know any better, you're going to be thinking that he's talking about the Earl Cossey actually signed this parachute. Well, Earl Cossey actually signed mine, Dan. But that's kind of, what bugs me, or the fact that he picked up that canopy and says, looks at the camera and goes, this is the canopy. It's like, well, you can't just say this stuff and get away with it. And the fact that the media will put a guy on just because he said that. Okay, so Earl Cossey was a liar too, though. Here's the thing about Earl Cossey, though. I have never caught Earl Cossey. Like, okay, so let's talk about parachutes and Earl Cossey. Okay, so Brandon Arnold, if you're watching, take a drink because I'm about to talk about this book. But hello, everybody, by the way. Let me come back. Hey, Jeff. Hello, Drew, Nicole. Hey, Stoolboom. Hello to Poirot. Everybody else out there. Anyway, I guess, Frag, I just got sidetracked. I thought I was, oh, yeah, Cossey. Okay. Cossey. Yes. Okay. So when I was writing the book on the case, and I needed to write about the parachutes, there was so much confusion about the parachutes. There's so much confusion because if you read Bruce Smith's book or you read his articles, there's just all this. Hayden's like, I don't remember Earl Cossey or all this other stuff, right? Or Hayden told Bruce that he never talked to the FBI about the parachute. Earl Cossey's saying all these things to the media in the 2000s that are just wrong. But the way, so I had to approach it to say, well, what's the truth about this? Because there's so much weirdness. But really, the truth is pretty easy. Honestly, it's quite simple, I think, is if you just follow what's in the FBI files. Earl Cossey doesn't lie in the FBI files, best I can tell. And like I said, I've looked at all 238 times that his name pops up. I've never seen him tell like something that was contradictory to an earlier statement. Now, he would say this stuff to the media, and according to Larry Carr, who I guess I had to have Larry on soon, but according to Larry, Earl admitted to Larry that he would just make things up with the media. He loved when November came around because he would get to just make things up about the parachutes. But if you look at what Earl Cossey actually said in the FBI files, and what Earl Cossey said before he knew this was a big story. So Earl Cossey is quoted in the news media. Like, I like to say, you can just ignore everything Earl Cossey ever says to the media, and you really kind of can. But his earliest statements to the media in the days after the hijacking are exactly what he told the FBI for decades, right? I made these military bailout rigs for Norman Hayden. I sold them to him. and this is what they were, so that's that. And didn't he change his mind about the jump being survivable? Yeah. And see, that's Earl Cossey. Just like, again, that is Cossey just being, that's Cossey being contrarian or something, because we've got Cossey talking to the FBI on November 29th. And he's like, oh yeah, easily survivable. I could teach somebody in five static line jumps, one free fall. You could do this Cooper jump pretty easily. In fact, every skydiver they talked to, every parachutist that the FBI interviewed in those earliest days, they were all saying easily survivable. All the agents were like, it's survivable. I mean, this whole not survivable thing really, it only ever comes from two sources. That would be Larry Carr, who is the only agent I know of who actually thinks Cooper would bet on that side of Cooper dying. Even Ralph Himmelbach, as gruff as he was, said 50-50. So it's Ralph and Larry. And I feel like Ralph had a personal vendetta against Cooper. Ralph had something against Cooper. He had a problem with Cooper, I think. So it's why he would make up some crap about Cooper all the time for some reason. Yeah, the FBI files are very confusing as far as like the canopy size. Yeah. Well, I can't even, gosh, that is such a thing to get into. If you can survive a jump on D-Day, you could survive Cooper's jump. Well, I mean, any of us could survive Cooper's jump. Again, the parachute that he jumped out with is a emergency bailout rig. It is completely, I mean, that is the purpose of it. It is to be used for people who have never jumped before. Like literally that is the purpose. It is a one-time, oh crap, my plane's going to crash. I got to jump out. It's like an airbag. Like none of us are like, students of taking airbag hits when we get in a car wreck, but it's there. Or like a lifeboat or something. Like how many of us have ever been in a lifeboat on a sinking ship or something? But that's still, they work. And emergency bailout rigs will work no matter if you're tumbling or not. They are purposely designed to open up if you're tumbling or anything. They're designed for people who are jumping out of flaming aircraft who have never jumped before. So Cooper jumped with good parachutes, actually. Ralph seemed like a stiff. Yeah, little bit. Let's see. Tusaw search. Ralph has died. He is a stiff now. Well, he is. Okay. I agree with, okay. Somebody said, let's just get some questions here. I agree with you about Gryder and McCoy. Wouldn't you agree that McCoy couldn't possibly be Cooper simply because of those ears? Ears don't help. That's for sure. McCoy's ears, I mean, he's got a problem there. That's some big ears. And he knew it too. What's interesting is that here's what's so weird about the real McCoy book is that the real McCoy book that Gryder loves to talk about a lot, only has like one chapter where they connect him to Cooper, really. The rest of it's, I mean, pretty good stuff in there from Bernie Rhodes, who interviewed, he did basically when you're convicted in federal court, you have probation officers who do risk assessments and all these other assessments on you. And they spend a lot of time with you. And Bernie Rhodes was that guy for McCoy. And, so, he never admitted to Rhodes that he was Cooper. The opposite, actually. He said, I'm not. So, but anyway, McCoy, but McCoy mentioned to Rhodes, he said, my ears, I was always worried about my ears. He said the ears were going to be the death of me. So he had to like tape down, well, I think his wig covered up his ears on purpose. I think he wanted this shag wig that he wore to cover up his Dumbo ears there. Yeah, not much. Exactly. Not much points to McCoy. That's the thing about the McCoy stuff is as soon as you ask a McCoy person, okay, why do you think that? Why do you think it's McCoy? He looks like the sketch. Well, so do I. So does half the people watching this show. They really don't have anything. Once you just ask them, show me something that makes you think he's Cooper. Well, they say, well, he pulled off the same thing. Well, again, so did 5 other people. He's not unique. To me, I think that's the biggest thing about McCoy, is that people don't know about the copycats. They don't know that he's not unique. McCoy's not unique. He's just a copycat. Hello, found your channel about 10 days ago. I've been listening many hours a day. Glad to catch up. I'm hoping you'll have a DB convention next year. I'd like to come. Okay, so there, I'll go ahead and announce that. Packer Jack is in here. Yes, we are going to be at Kiggins Theater next year. We will be. We have worked that out. We'll be at Kiggins Theater in Vancouver next year. So we'll be back down in real Cooper country. Even though Seattle's Cooper country too, but Vancouver is more Cooper country. We've got Lake Merwin around there. We've got Ariel, Orchards, PDX, Tina Bar, all that good stuff. So yeah, so we'll be back in Vancouver next year. And they've got Victor 23 there. I mean, you can have Skyjacker Ale. No longer can you have the Schaffner Pilsner, which is heartbreaking. That breaks my heart that we can't have the Schaffner Pilsner anymore, because I guess Flo's family didn't like them having her name on there, which is that's not very fun. When are the dates? I don't know the dates yet. Please make Yolanda a featured speaker. Okay, well, there we go, Packer. 14th and the 16th. Thank you. Okay. The FBI got the parachute back in the summer of 2023. What are their findings? My guess, and this is Larry's guess too. That's why I should have Larry on. I mean, Larry was the case agent for, I think, over a total of 5 years, I think. Larry is of the opinion they've not even looked at it yet. They might now. He's like, they're probably going to have to now, because somebody at the office is like, one of the bosses is like, hey, will y'all deal with this? But Larry doesn't think that the current case agent has even looked at it before all this happened. Just because, for one thing, okay, so it's important to understand that the Cooper case is a hobby case, or it's supposed to be a hobby case, which just means there's only one agent assigned to it. You work on it on your after hours. Don't waste your bureau time on the Cooper case. So generally, the people who had the Cooper case, there was only ever one Norjack agent. I think once Ron Nichols, maybe in 76 or so, they just went to one, because they had 3 originally. They had Charlie Farrell. When I say Norjack agent, I mean like that was their job, but it changed into like be the answer the phone guy around 76. But that was Ron Nichols, and he had that until the early 90s. Then there was another guy, I don't know his name. Then there was Ralph Hope, who was our DNA guy. And then it was Eric Mueller, then Larry Carr, then Curtis Ng, and all these people had some interest in Cooper. They're like, sure, I'll take it. I like the Cooper stuff. But apparently the current case agent, it was forced on him. He was assigned it. He didn't give a crap, because there was nobody left in the office who cared, apparently, once Larry retired a couple years ago. So yeah, I was going to say Detler. I said, the agents who were around in the 70s, the first agents were, there were 3 of them: John Detler, Charlie Farrell, and Don Steele. And then Don Steele got replaced a couple of years later by Ron Nichols. Okay. Do you think Billy Waugh could have been Cooper? No. I'm sure Drew will. Yes, Drew says no. There you go. No on Billy Waugh. I mean, he could have done it, but didn't. No doubt he could have if he wanted to. Is Cossey's son talking at all? Does he have anything to add? Nikki has spoken to him a few times. And in fact, Nikki found out that this parachute was found in the summer of 2022, and the summer of 2022, incidentally, is the same time that Gryder went and met with the Cossey kids. So, okay. But I've asked Nikki to message Cossey's son, Waylon, to see if he still has Cossey's logbook, because there is some weirdness about the parachutes in the FBI files as far as the canopy goes, and we can discuss that later on if people want to fall asleep. We can talk about that. But is Ron Nichols still with us? He is, and he is tough to get in touch with. Ron Nichols was a badass. Ron Nichols graduated second in his class at the Naval Academy, which is no joke. And I like Ron Nichols. He is, when you read his 302s, I like Ron. He's the one who bitched out Himmelbach. He bitched out Himmelbach pretty bad when he even compiled, man, I wish maybe I'll find that. Nichols even compiled a list of every time that Hemi was on, here we go. Yeah, I've got it right here. Yeah. So Nichols was angry at Himmelbach he was basically bitching at the Bureau saying, hey, why is Ralph Himmelbach talking to the media about this case? I'm the Norjack agent. He doesn't know. I mean, he's not the Norjack agent. He's an agent in Portland who handles their calls, but he's not a Norjack agent. Why is he the guy? Basically he was mad because Ralph was talking to the media without first consulting the Seattle office. Because I wish I should have Larry on, but Larry can explain it. Essentially, if it's your case, it's your case. Okay. And this case is a Seattle case. Everything that is done by the FBI on this case has to be approved. So for example, when they went to go get this parachute from Dan, those agents out there had to get the go ahead from the current case agent in Seattle to get the DNA. They asked the case agent in Seattle, hey, can we do this? Yes. So like, he was mad that Himmelbach was doing all this media stuff without consulting with the Office of Origin first. It's Seattle. So here he compiled this and he fired this off to the director of the FBI saying, why don't you just assign this case to Portland because this guy's doing all this media. There we go. It says, for those listening on the podcast, it says, Special Agent Himmelbach made separate tapes and had separate interviews with the following newspapers, radio, and TV stations concerning the D.B. Cooper case on November 24, 1976. It should be noted that ABC, NBC, and CBS New York are listed separately since they interviewed separately, and results of these interviews were picked up by many of their affiliates whose identity is not known. But he lists Himmelbach giving interviews to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 newspapers, 4 television networks, and what is that? 16 radio stations. So yeah, all in one day. So that's Nichols. Yeah. Speech matters is the subject line there by Nichols. Speech matters, like saying, stop talking to the media. I love that. Yeah. So Nichols wasn't putting up with that much. Okay. Yes, he called Hemi a personality. He was not a fan of Himmelbach for sure. Larry gets confused by Himmelbach too. Larry's like, something weird about Himmelbach. Like he was like, it wasn't even his case. Ralph is also a liar. He made out he was the assigned agent. Absolutely. That's correct, Mark. Ralph Himmelbach was never a Norjack case agent, ever. It's not his case. In fact, when Tina Barr happened, when the money was found, it was found in Washington because it's found Tina Barr is in Vancouver, Washington. Okay. So it's in that zip code, Clark County. Okay. When that happened, that's a Washington case. That's for the Washington FBI guys. That's, not only is it Washington, sorry. Not only is it in Washington State, but again, it's Norjack. It's Seattle's case. So even if it wasn't, anyway, Ralph runs over there. Ralph tells all of his guys, hey, go home and get your rakes and your shovels. We're going to the beach. And they all run over there. The Seattle FBI office does not learn about Cooper's money being found until they see it on TV. Okay. They saw it on TV and were like, oh my God, are you serious? So that is how the Seattle FBI office learned about Tina Barr was on TV because the Portland office, Ralph Himmelbach, did not call them. My theory is that, remember, Ralph Himmelbach retired after 20-something, 30 years, whatever, 2 weeks after Tina Barr. That was his mandatory. I believe when you reach 55 years old, they make you retire maybe in the FBI. So I think he was approaching his retirement age in 2 weeks. And my belief is that he didn't care about the chain of command. He wanted to be the hero. He wanted to be the guy who unearthed Cooper's body or something, right? So I think that's why he didn't inform Seattle, because by God, I don't care. I've got 2 weeks left. What are they going to do to me? I've been here for 30 years. They're going to do crap to me. I'm one of Hoover's G-men, old school, Okay. Himmy gave so much misinformation, black loafers. Yeah. Himmy's also the one who liked to talk about it was -7 degrees when he jumped out. Everybody goes, oh my God. Well, Celsius, though, not Fahrenheit. I mean, now granted, -7 is like 22 Fahrenheit, but still, though, he makes it sound worse than it was. Yeah, and Himmy, I just love Himmy's idea of Cooper crawling to a stream and dying. Like, where? Like, what stream are we talking about? I mean, there's not even much water in the drop zone anyway. Hello, glad. Yes, Ralph had a moat mansion. He lived regally and thought of himself as a modern day knight. Well, he married well, apparently. His second wife was an heiress of some sort. Let's see. Is Mac V. Sog a major talent pool for who could have been Cooper? Sure. I mean, honestly, if you had to, I've always said this about Ted Braden, is like, if you could invent someone to pull off this hijacking successfully, you'd invent Ted Braden. You'd invent a Mac V. Sog guy. So yes, 100% Mac V. Sog. Jumping in an unknown location and getting out that was a Tuesday for them. So, hello everybody. Is there any chance? Would anyone know if there were any hijackings attempted between? Well, Bud, you can go to my webpage, norjack.org, and read all about them. Yes, absolutely. That's the thing I was just talking about, is that we've got lots of copycats. There were the one that was right between Cooper and McCoy was this fella here, Richard LaPoint, on January 20th, 1972. He was looking like Matthew McConaughey in real life. All right. Let me show y'all a picture of the real guy. If you've not actually seen what this fella looks like in real life, let me find him. There he is. Oh man, come on. Hang on. Sorry, folks. Yeah. Well, here is the real guy, the real Richard LaPoint. Handsome fella. He's actually our youngest skyjacker, I believe. He was 21, maybe. There he is, after being arrested. Look at that handsome fella. McConaughey in the handcuffs. He actually broke his ankle or severely sprained it coming down. He jumped with cowboy boots. And as you see, as best I could tell with AI, as best I could make with AI, he was wearing blue jeans, a denim jacket, a blue shirt, and cowboy boots. But that's Richard LaPoint. So yeah, there were lots of guys. It wasn't just, they were fanboys. These guys were fanboys of Cooper. In fact, we know that if you read the FBI files, McCoy's sister-in-law was always saying that he talked about the Seattle hijacking constantly. He loved talking about DB Cooper, according to the sister-in-law. That's what she tells the FBI in 1972. He's like, oh, he was always talking about that. Yeah, right. There was snow on the ground when LaPoint jumped. He landed in the snow. He was out of his mind. He jumped in the daytime. He jumps at around 1 in the morning. 1 in the afternoon. So like they could see him coming down. Like, bizarre. I don't know what he was doing. He's the only one who did it in the daytime, which is just dumb. But it's no wonder he was caught. But he had mental problems. He actually had a sad ending. He had like some kind of disease or something that required him to have an oxygen tank on at all times. And there was a hurricane. I don't remember which one it was. Some hurricane went up the East Coast and hit New York or Massachusetts in the like 2005-ish or something like that. And he ended up dying because his power cut off in his sleep or something, and it killed him. He was only 53 or something. He was a young guy. I mean, I don't know. Richard LaPoint would be 73 or something right now. He could come to CooperCon if he was still alive. So I'm gonna try to get Rob Hetty though. We're trying to get Rob Hetty this year to come. Here's Rob Hetty's outfit. Rob Hetty ran onto the plane, jumped the gate, ran onto the plane, scared the shit out of everybody, looking like that. Wearing his army stuff. He had just got back from Nam. He was all jittery. And anyway, hoping to get Rob Hetty there. Okay. McNally landed about an hour from where I live, Peru, Indiana. I think that's how you say it, not Peru, Indiana. Oh, my God. Do you think Cooper actually wanted to go to Mexico? Well, okay. I think I can briefly discuss that. Flyjack has made me, Flyjack, for those who don't know, is a guy whose research I respect in the Cooper Vortex. He doesn't participate much. I'd love for him to come on my show, but he won't. But Flyjack has a thought. Now, I mean, Flyjack has a suspect, and so you have to understand that, there are certain biases when it comes to suspects. If someone has a suspect, you just have to deal with that. And I'm not gonna say he's biased, but his idea about Cooper in Mexico is influenced by his suspect, and his suspect would be this fella here, Bill Heineman, William Frederick Heineman, who jumped out. He was the closest to looking like Cooper as far as how he was dressed. He jumps out over Honduras with $303,000 on May 5th. May have actually been May 6th by the time he jumped out, but he jumps out with $303,000. He hijacks a plane at Dulles in DC. It had taken off from Allentown, PA. But anyway, as far as Mexico goes, I'm wrong. So Jeff Carroll says we always say Peru like the country, as far as I know. Okay, for some reason I thought Peru. Okay. Book coming out, not sure. It's done, looking for publishers and things. Anyway, what else was I going? Mexico. Yes, Mexico. So Cooper does ask for Mexico City. Now, something that has always bothered me is Cooper seems to have his head on straight before he gets the money. After he gets the money, his actual jump seems very haphazard and very poorly executed. At least to us, it seems that way. He's the only hijacker. He's the only one of these parajackers who does not give directions, specific flight directions. Every one of them who jumped out gave coordinates to their pilots. Because remember, it wasn't like that wasn't going to give away. It's not where the plane is, because the plane is always going to be on radar. Okay, so the location of the plane is not the issue. It's when you jump out that's the mystery that you're trying to keep hidden, right? So you can give your pilots exact coordinates to fly, and that's not going to like give you away, as long as wherever you plan to jump out is somewhere along that route. McCoy gave a route that was 800 miles long or something, right? But anyway, Mexico. So Flyjack's thought. Now, again, here's something to remember. They did not, the copycats, they did not give the specific flight directions until after they had taken off again. They land and get their money, let the passengers off. It's a Cooper hijacking, right? You land, get the money, get your parachutes, let the passengers off, take off. So they didn't give their instructions on where to go until after they had taken off, because that was just what they did. So the thought might be, well, maybe Cooper never had a chance to give his specific flight instructions because his plans changed halfway through. You see, Cooper did not want them to land anywhere in America for refueling. We have this misconception that Cooper thought that the plane could fly all the way to Mexico City. No, he just thought the plane could fly all the way to Mexico, because he says his initial instructions are don't land anywhere to refuel, that is within the U.S. Fly to Mexico City, no stopping to refuel within the U.S. Okay, so across the border, you can stop and refuel, which tells me, if you're looking at it from a perspective of somebody who actually wants to jump out in Mexico somewhere, okay, that tells me, hey, I don't want to land anywhere to refuel in America where there's FBI who could stage some ambush on me. So so I think what happened, or what could have happened, this is Flyjack's theory, and there's some, I kind of, it reconciles some things. Flyjack's theory is that Cooper wanted to jump out somewhere in Mexico before they got to Mexico City. Okay. Because, hey, there's no federales down there. There's no FBI down there. But then when he learned, oh crap, the plane has to stop to refuel in the US, they said, look, we cannot do this. We have to stop to refuel. In fact, it was going to take them three refueling stops. They had to stop. They were going to have to stop in Reno, Yuma, and Mazatlan, Mexico, to refuel. So the thought is that, all along Cooper was going to give coordinates along the flight path at some point, along the route to Mexico City. But when he goes, oh crap, we're going to have to land somewhere in America. Screw it. I'm just going to jump out as soon as I can, or I'll jump back at Portland if I think this is Portland coming up here. So that's the thought. So maybe Mexico could have been. And so, I mean, I can see that, right? Because you're like, oh crap, if we have to land in Reno, that gives them, because remember what was his thought process? As soon as they were like, we have to refuel somewhere, they start throwing out LA. Cooper goes, oh, that's too busy. No. They go, what about San Francisco? He goes, no, too busy. He keeps saying these places are too busy. Well, why would they be? Busy with what? Well, busy because there's more law enforcement there, probably, right? So he decides on Reno and goes, God, I don't want to take the risk that they're going to have 3 hours to prepare for me, to land there. And then they're just going to ambush me, which, I mean, they would have. I mean, again, they were ready to storm the plane when it landed in Reno. So, I mean, they were chasing behind it as it landed. So I think that it's possible that maybe he did want to go to Mexico at least. And that's why Cooper doesn't seem to care about where he jumps. It's so weird. It's like, why would he go to all this detail and then just assume he's jumping somewhere? I don't know. It's possible. When Cooper said he was going somewhere pleasant, could this be referring to Pleasant Valley? Oh, well, he told the girls they were going somewhere pleasant. He didn't say he was going somewhere pleasant. The girls said, where are we going? He just said somewhere pleasant. Okay. Some other questions. Let me roll back to the top. I'm missing some questions from people. Okay. Gryder actually believes that McCoy did the Cooper jump holding the money like a teddy bear. Gryder knows nothing about this case. That's the real indication of Gryder is he doesn't know anything about the case. Like it's like, do you not know that Cooper like tied money around his waist, tied shroud line around his waist and had a bag? Like, what do you, I mean, like, that's like Cooper 101. He's been, and they introduced him on TV as a researcher for 20 years. He thinks the money was a leather bag. That's not leather back there. That's a canvas bank bag. The pillowcase with bricks in it is what Jack Olmsted said, the passenger. Okay. Why the sudden interest in Gryder's find? Yeah, because this happened 2 years ago. I think he found a reporter who bought in and it got picked up from there. That's all. Let's see. What are your thoughts on Bruce Smith? I love Bruce. Uncle Bruce. Bruce was exactly who the Vortex needed when we were all young pups in the Vortex. Back before the FBI files. It's kind of like I always say we have BC and AD. We have before the files and after the files. And Bruce is necessary. Bruce was necessary for a time period when, like, I don't like talking. I mean, I like talking to people, but I don't like cold calling people. I'm not going to bother anybody. Bruce doesn't give a damn about that. He'll bother anybody for a story. So I can sit in my chair and read all these FBI files all day long and be happy as a hog and slop. But Bruce, I mean, he goes out and talks to people. And back before the FBI files, you had to go talk to people to get anything about Cooper, because the only thing out there about Cooper was a few random news articles, Himmelbach's book, Tusaw's book, and a few statements from the crew. I mean, we didn't know anything about the case, really. And so Bruce was necessary. I mean, his book is like, I can write a book on you just using the FBI files, but Bruce's book is 300 pages of his own like investigative work. It's incredible, really. Okay. What else? Mini Coop for Congress. Sure. He's more alive than some of the people in Congress, that's for sure. Okay. Why would he die in the stream? I don't know. Ralph seemed to think he was wounded and went to the stream to drink water because that's what you do when you're wounded from a parachute fall. I don't know. Yeah, he crawled into the woodshed and died in Clara's farms, of course. Okay. Himmy in his airplane eating cheeseburgers and wearing his skull cap. Himmy was the first guy. I mean, like Himmelbach, I give the guy grief, but look, he was the first person to be in the air looking for Cooper. He was up at like 6 a.m. I don't think he went to sleep that night. At 6 a.m. He was up in his own private plane flying around the flight path looking for a canopy or something. Okay. I saw a post on the group by Jude, president of the Dead Camp, with all the reasons he thinks Cooper didn't survive the jump. I would love to hear some time of all the reasons you believe he did survive. Okay. Well, Tina Bar, for one thing. I mean, to explain the money at Tina Bar being 10 miles away from where the plane ever was, for the money to end up at Tina Bar with Cooper dying means that either he became separated with the money and somebody found the money and didn't report it forever, or never reported finding the money, or somebody found Cooper's dead body and took the money from his dead body. I think it's far more likely that the money got there because Cooper lived and got away from the flight path, right? So I think Tina Bar is a good indication that that Cooper lived. I would say that the fact that where he jumped is an area that isn't, where he jumped is not what you think it is. In fact, I'll show a picture here of what the FBI now believes officially that he jumped over Orchard's, Washington. And here is a photo of Orchard's, Washington, I believe from 2 months before the hijacking. So that is not the wilderness. That is not mountainous Yukon, right? So Cooper jumped. Listen, there is a skydiving center where Orchard's is. Okay, Orchard's, Washington. At the time, there was a skydiving center. So where Cooper jumped, there was a skydiving center. So if Cooper dies, somebody's going to come across something at some point because it's not deep in the woods. And again, the Tina Bar money, how does the money get there unless I don't know. Here's the thing. If the money came off of Cooper and Cooper no pulls, because the only way he dies, in my opinion, is if he no pulls, which is like such a low probability. But if Cooper lost the money, his body is going to be he's going straight down, and so is the money. So they're going to be close to the same spot where the money and Cooper go splat. And hey, I think if that money bag hits the ground at terminal velocity, that thing's exploding anyway. So I just don't. You have to come up with some scenario where somebody finds Cooper's dead body and just takes the money and leaves him. No. And the lack of a missing person. Now, granted, a lot of people weren't ever officially missing who went missing, and again, all the copycats survived. Just like the sheer numbers of skydiving fatalities is so low. I mean, it's literally in the millions to one. These parachutes work. You will live. Okay. Do you know what kind of parachutes McNally and McCoy used that they did survive with? McNally had one behind me, a little reserve right there. That's what McNally had. McNally jumped with a front chest 24-foot reserve out of a jet going 330 miles an hour, which is probably, I've talked to Mark Meltzer about this. That was probably a record at the time that for a non-ejection. That was probably a speed record for any human to exit an aircraft and live, was probably Martin McNally, aside from ejections who were going in jets, Mach 3 or whatever, right? But as far as like actually jumping out of a plane, that was probably as fast as anybody had ever gone. And he survived it with a 24-foot chest parachute, having never even put on a parachute in his life. Okay. McCoy jumped with a 28-foot canopy. A guy named Larry Patterson loaned him. McCoy had his own parachute. He took two. McCoy took two on the plane. Larry Patterson, a buddy of his, he borrowed one from him. And McCoy's own personal parachute had an altimeter that was set funny and actually popped inside the plane and knocked over a stewardess, funnily enough, when the pilot chute came out. Anyway, let's see. Was Reno the only destination that would take them down Victor 23? No, Victor 23 goes through Portland, Bakersfield. I forget all the, I have that somewhere, but yeah, they went, Victor 23 went over, the flight path went over a lot of major places. I wish I had that on me. The Mexicans would have taken his money. Yeah, I'm sure. Let's see. Does the fact he didn't realize they will stop 3 times indicate about him maybe not having a deep understanding of the vehicle? Yeah, I think so. I don't know. You would think that, well, it's like he didn't anticipate. I don't think he anticipated how much extra fuel would be spent flying with flaps down and gear down. I mean, on a good day, an empty 727 could have flown all the way from Seattle to Mexico City on a single tank. That was the limit. It could go like 3,500 miles. That was the extreme limit of its. So part of me thinks that Cooper almost just looked up in a book, what is the how far what is the range on this thing? 3,500 miles. And they looked at a map and I was like, what is within 3,500 miles that, because remember, Cooper wanted the plane to be in the air as long as possible because he wanted them to not understand when he jumped. He wanted to give the Max time to escape before they realized he got away. So he gives them this destination that's far away. That's probably why he picked Mexico City, because it was at the limit. But then he goes, oh crap. So yeah, it does speak to maybe him not knowing the aircraft as well as we assume he does. It's really creepy though when you read the FBI files, the witness reports of the copycats, newspaper reports. This guy knows a lot about the airplane. Not really. They were just dudes. So maybe we do give Cooper too much credit for these things. Why do you think Cooper had a gun? Well, why would he not have a gun? Well, reason being, again, I go back to the copycats all the time. The copycats, people are people. So people are always going to do things the same way. Generally, I mean, we're going to drive a car the same way. We're going to walk the same way, chew gum the same way. We're going to do things a lot the same way. And criminal behavior is generally the same thing too. All of the copycats, all 6 of them that I consider canonical copycats, 5 jumped out. Melvin Fisher got on the stairs with his money and was scared and didn't jump out. But all of them either brandished pistols. Well, 3 of them, McCoy, Heineman, and Hetty. McCoy, Heineman, and Hetty used pistols as part of their hijackings. Okay. But McNally, Fisher, and LaPoint had pistols on them, but did not brandish them at any point. So it was like a backup, to their fake bomb or whatever. So Cooper, just imagine you're Cooper and you've got this fake bomb. Well, what if somebody calls you out on this fake bomb? Well, then your whole thing is toast. You're dead. Your whole thing, you're going to prison. Cooper had to have had a secondary weapon, secondary threat. So it makes perfect sense. I mean, if you're going to carry a bomb on a plane, why not have a pistol also? And once you get and you get on the ground, you might need a pistol. See, McNally used a submachine gun during his hijacking. He had a pistol with him in case he had to carjack somebody to get away. That was his thought, is I don't know what I'm going to get into when I get on the ground. But so all the copycats had pistols either hidden or brandishing them. So I don't see any reason why Cooper wouldn't have had a pistol. It makes perfect sense. You got to have a backup in case your bomb gets called out. Whatever happened to the Tina Mucklow doc that was supposed to come out? It's a feature film, actually, and it's on a personal hiatus. I personally don't think Cooper thought he was going to survive his jump. I think he was suicidal, perhaps. I think that if you look at all of the copycats, most of them were suicidal to some degree. I think he didn't care if he died. I'll just say that. I think he wanted to live. He was happy. Remember, he's happy when he gets the money. So I think he wanted to live. Yeah, it's odd he knew about the aft stairs, flaps, landing gear, and didn't understand gas consumption. Makes me think he read it in a book. Something, or was told about it, right? I mean, he may have been told. I think it's secondhand knowledge is what you're saying. Yeah. Okay. Bruce Smith is cool. Hope all is well. Is Bruce living in Florida? No, Bruce is back in Washington somewhere. Well, no one rid me of this troublesome Gryder. That's what I'm wondering. Well, hopefully I've rid him of Gryder. Hopefully we've rid. I don't know how he can. I mean, he'll come back somehow. So I present him with the FBI files saying that he is undoubtedly wrong and that he's making things up. And he just goes, well, you can't trust the FBI. They're 302s. But the irony there is he's like, you can't trust the FBI. This mystery guest at McCoy's house on Thanksgiving, that's 8 months later. He didn't even remember what they talked about. I'm like, bro, you're in the same video that you're bitching about this. You go and interview a guy about something that happened 50 something years ago that Richard McCoy Sr. told this old man. Oh, I remember 53. So you can't have it both ways, man. You can't be whatever. Gryder. Okay. Tina Barr. So many reasons he survived. Is Kurt Cobain and D.B. Cooper the best thing that ever happened to Seattle? Yeah. I'm a Nirvana guy. Let's see. The Cooper died in the jump convention is now sinking donations through GoFundMe. The Cooper died in the jump. Do you think Cooper had experienced skydiving? Yeah, I think so. A few jumps at least. Look, I've used this analogy before. I have never gone scuba diving. I would never go scuba diving. I don't like scuba diving. I would never devise a bank robbery, which is what Cooper's hijacking was, just a clever bank robbery. I would never devise a heist that involved me scuba diving as my exit, as my escape. If I have to escape, I have to scuba dive away. Why would anybody do that? So, no. Then again, the existence of Paul frickin' Cini is what troubles everything. Paul Cini came up with the same idea as Cooper 13 days earlier. I personally think Cooper was a Cini copycat. So does the FBI. Paul Cini had never jumped out of a plane before. And this was his concept. So, but I do think Cooper, look, Cooper's checking the packing cards. I didn't know what the hell a packing card was until I got into Cooper. So the fact that Cooper's looking at packing cards, the fact that he was able to put on his parachute easily, McNally at gunpoint had to have the flight engineer come back and show him how to put on a parachute. That tell you something. All right. Diatoms rule out water landing. That's right. Yeah, here's Mark. Max jump was astonishing. Yeah, a frigging chest reserve going 330 miles an hour. Do I think McNally looks at himself in the mirror and smirks, thinking himself 330 miles an hour? I don't know what Mac thinks. I need to get Mac on here. I haven't talked to Mac in a minute. Mac scares the hell out of me. Okay. Hello, Ryan. Love your channel and videos. Thank you, Crew 2 Hellcats. Okay. It is a little unsettling to me how calm he was. I know, and I watched your video on how the crew was not in on it. Of course not. But do you think he had a way out if things had gone south? No one is usually that calm. Um, a way out. Well, he could have killed himself, I guess. That was McNally's way out. McNally was like, I can go to prison, I can kill myself, or I can jump out this plane. And when he lost the money, he almost killed himself. He started unbuckling his parachute. McNally did, and almost let go of it and killed him. Yeah. So did he have a way out if things had gone south? Like I said, all these guys were suicidal. We have hijackers killing themselves in hijacked planes. That did happen back then. When they got cornered, they would kill themselves. So that's not impossible to have imagined. Any chance that Cooper, the bomb, most of the money was eaten by a bear? Well, if Cooper had died, he would certainly have been eaten by a bear. I've talked about it before, but there was a teenager who went missing the same month in the same county, or maybe this county over from there. But it was a teenager who went missing hunting the same month as Cooper in November 71. And in November 72, they found his rifle and they found like a femur bone and a rib bone. That's all they ever found this teenager. And that was within 1 year. So in 1 year, completely nothing left of a human being except like a femur bone is all they found. Okay. So the idea of anybody ever coming across, a full Cooper, is in the woods or something is just unlikely, right? You're not going to just come across some dead body splattered there years later. So Cooper definitely would have been food and torn asunder very quickly. I'm still stuck on the lefty thing. This fellow was left-handed. I convinced myself. Maybe I just keep thinking about his hand, right? If the bomb is a dummy, or regardless, he keeps his right hand as a prop. Just picture yourself, whatever hand you are. What hand do you want to be free to grab somebody in the aisle or write something if you have to, or point a gun or whatever, smoke a cigarette, pull out a match, whatever. That's the hand that you're going to want free, not the hand you just leave idle sitting in a briefcase. So, I think it's possible that he was left-handed and he had a choice. Bill was the last passenger to board. Bill, who sat on the left side of the plane. Cooper sat on the right side of the plane. So Cooper did have a choice, left side or right side, and he chose the right side, which would have allowed. We know McNally was left-handed. This is the joy of having McNally on speed dial is you can text McNally, and I can text a DB Cooper and say, "Hey, why'd you do this?" And I texted Mac, and I said, why did you sit where you sat? Did you sit on the right side or left side of the plane? He said, I sat on the right side of the plane because he's left-handed. He said, so I could point my machine gun down the aisle. So that's why he sat on that side of the plane. Let's see. Any mention of him having keys, maybe in the mystery bag, maybe implying he was going straight home or dropping to a car. Well, no, we don't know. No key jangling. He had no ring. Yeah, good thought though. But he had no watch. He had no ring. I think anything that could have identified him in any way, he didn't have on him. Why do I think Portland and Seattle were chosen? So Drew Daniel is a Cooperite. Drew he thinks that it's because it was a terminating flight. Okay, so Portland to Seattle is like that flight was going to terminate in Seattle. That way, I forget exactly his reasoning for it, but the passengers were going to get off anyway in Seattle. So it wasn't going to mess up. I forget what I'm saying on that, but I don't know. Portland, Seattle, who knows? Good point. Darn Mississippi lawyer. I know, Ralph. The lowest of the low, according to Ralph. Okay, man. I'm not the one with $1 million judgment against me. Do I have any DB Cooper theory hot takes? Hot take. Not really. I talk about him a lot. Just that, I guess, I mean, the hot take is that, Composite A is, I think, the best sketch. And I'll get in a fight with Flyjack about that. I'm not sure if that's a hot take anymore, because that's the only sketch that was drawn with the witnesses sitting there as the guy drew it. I don't know why that wouldn't be the best sketch, but okay. Adam ruins everything. Yeah, I've heard about that. Well, I'm definitely going to do some fake DB Cooper claims. This has me fired up. I'm going to attack some of in the future. I'm definitely going to attack some of the bogus. I hate grifters. That's the problem. I don't like grifters, because there's always a grift in the Cooper case. And the Rackstraw grift was so strong. Like, how Rackstraw ended up being the face of 2 documentaries, baffling. What was the deal with the military shoot scene in the Columbia? That was reported within a week. I'm not sure the exact days, but that was hung up on a rock. They were hung up on the rocks. We actually, thanks to Tessa Lauren, we had a boat tour on Tina Bar. I think I've shown people. Maybe I'll show those pictures again. We went down Tina Bar on the boat there, and it was great. I was on the Columbia. There I am. That's Tina Bar behind me. A part of Tina Bar behind me, what's left of it. But look at this photograph here. This is approaching Tina Bar. How about that? A rainbow was, and the sun came out right on Tina Bar as we approached it in a boat. Just remarkable. Very cool. Very cool stuff. But what was the question on it? What was the question on that? Why did I just bring up Tina Bar? Dadgum, you people. Oh, the military shoot. Okay, yeah. So we went past those rocks, actually. The rocks right next to the railroad bridge. That's where it was spotted. And they contacted the Vancouver police, and they said, oh, no, that can't be Cooper's canopy. Cooper, that skyjacker, jumped 40 miles north of here or whatever, around Ariel. And they just never looked into it. And I mean, that's, if that really was a military canopy that was hung up on rocks, that's pretty telling that Cooper dumped it there. Yeah, Wendina says Boeing, Weyerhaeuser, Microsoft, Starbucks, and Amazon are the best things to ever happen in Seattle. Good point. Good point. Okay. Bruce Smith once wrote that the FBI has DB Cooper's fingerprints and palm prints, which included the tips, sides, lower joints, but they don't match anybody. That's not true. Okay. So again, that's Bruce going off of conjecture and rumors, because Bruce didn't have the FBI files, but we have the FBI files. We know now for certain they collected 11 partial fingerprints from Cooper's area. All partial, which either means that he obfuscated his fingerprints with glue or something, or he wiped his area down. I don't think he wiped his area down, because they did recover a full or a clean palm print from where he pushed down and stood up out of his chair. So they have Cooper's palm print. They don't have his fingerprints though. So, but the problem is the military still don't take palm prints. So nobody took palm prints back then. They did not start taking palm prints in law enforcement until the LAPD and NYPD started doing it in 2003. So any of these older suspects, we're not going to have their palm prints unless you dug them up, right? But they have Cooper's palm print. They feel very good about that they've got his palm print. And that's actually how they would rule out suspects. That was their surefire way usually to just say, look, if they're interviewing a suspect, we'll leave you alone. Just give us your palm print. And usually they would go, okay, sure, have a palm print. Rackstraw was the one who was like, oh, I don't know about that. Rackstraw didn't want to give him his palm prints. He was being a real jerk. And they even contacted the Attorney General's office and said, hey, can we hold him down and make him give us a palm print? Can we strap him down or something? And before the Attorney General came back and said, I don't think you can do that, Rackstraw said, sure, have my palm print. Of course, no match. And by the way, McCoy's palm print, another strike against McCoy. McCoy's palm print was tested against the Cooper palm print, no match. If you believe the FBI. Can we talk about that for a second? Dan, I've watched his FBI thing now twice. What is he even implying? Why would they kill McCoy and not frame him for the hijacking? Because he's like, they killed him because he was embarrassing them. They have Rick McCoy going, reading that monotone, they killed him because he was an embarrassment to them. Well, like, the embarrassment was that they couldn't solve the case. So let's kill the guy. If he's Cooper anyway, we'll kill the guy and we'll just say, oh, the palm print matched, yada, yada, end of story. Why would they kill Cooper and then not name the guy as Cooper? And it's so backwards. It makes no sense. Didn't Mac go to the library? Yes, Mac went to the library and learned about 727s. Okay. Sociopaths tend to be calm when they think it can benefit them. Yes, they can be calm. They can be nice. They can be decent people. I don't think Cooper was a decent guy. That might be a hot take. Cooper was a hijacker. If you look, Mac wasn't a decent guy back then. He will admit that. He was an asshole. He was a criminal. I mean, you don't hijack planes if you're sane and normal. But, they say, well, Cooper was a gentleman. Yeah, well, Ted Bundy was a gentleman until he killed the women, right? So it's a means to an end to be nice. That's correct. Bears don't like nylon and steel. Any chance we find the side profile sketch for Bill? My God, man. Yeah, for those who don't know, Bill Mitchell, who sat across from Cooper, announced, here's a photograph of Bill and Darren. I think Darren's in the pod now. There's a great shot of Bill and Darren that I took of them talking. But Bill said that he actually drew a sketch, a side profile sketch of Cooper, and that he gave it to the FBI. And I said, well, did they give it back? And he goes, no. So I've not seen that sketch. There is still a chance. There's still 40,000 documents left, apparently. So there's still a chance that we'll see those. So maybe we'll see the side profile sketch. Well, I just made £2. Thank you, Jack. Oh, I'm not reading your name there, Jack. Recca was Cooper. He confessed. Plus he was KGB, CIA. I'm assuming that's a joke about Recca. I mean, let me know, Jack. I'm not saying your name, but I assume that's a joke. I'm guessing this is probably Brandon Arnold, being Brandon, our very own Andy Kaufman. Okay. We know McCoy put a bronze spray over himself to disguise his skin color. Do you think there's any chance Cooper wore something like that as well? No, I don't think so, because that would have been obvious, right? People look weird when they're not supposed to look a certain way. And people, Tina sat with Cooper for a while. She wasn't staring at him a lot, but I think the reason why I don't like the idea of Cooper wearing some kind of skin bronzer is because three of our best witnesses use the term olive to describe Cooper. Like, that's not like FBI talk. That is their terms. Olive is what they told the FBI. Olive is a very distinct shade, and you don't get olive skin tone from some kind of bronzer, right? That's a distinct skin tone, so I think he was olive. Okay. Pull up the sketch. What sketch? Talking about the one that, okay, you're probably thinking of this one. Yeah. I mean, to me, that's the only one to pay attention to, just to be honest. I know that people will disagree with me on that, and I have no agenda here. I don't have a suspect I'm pushing that looks like this, but just common sense, right? If this is the only one drawn with the three stewardesses sitting there as this is drawn from scratch, why would this be less accurate than, oh God, I shouldn't have shown that. But yes, thank you again, Brandon Arnold. But yeah, why would that be any less accurate than one that was made in August of 72, right? I mean, again, a sketch drawn with the witnesses sitting there with the sketch artist 2 days later versus a sketch that is not drawn with witnesses there 9 months later. Why would it get better? It would only get worse. Memory doesn't work like that. That's not the way memory works. Yeah. All right. It's frustrating Cossey introduces so many inconsistencies. Yeah, I know. You just kind of, like I said, if you ignore, I basically just came to the conclusion that if you ignore whatever Cossey says after 1976 to the media, everything else makes sense because Cossey's description matches Norman Hayden's description. Norman Hayden, the owner, gave a description, and Cossey's description also matches that roughly, the description. So, okay. If I pick up that guitar, new sub here. Thank you, Ronald, for subbing. If you pick up that guitar, it's a Rickenbacker. Start singing like Gryder. No, no, I'm not going to be singing like Gryder. Have you met Tina? What would be your one question to her? Oh my God. What would be my one question? If I think about that, let me take a drink. I'll have to come back to that. If I had one question for Tina, I don't know. What do y'all think? Okay. Yeah, multiple parachute parts were found on the Columbia over the years. Yep, that's true. Lots of parachute parts. Ryan, I need some advice. Can I put okra in gumbo? If there is something I know less about than scuba diving, it's cooking. So don't ever ask me food advice. Can you provide a refresher on Orville Lions as a potential suspect? Oh, he's getting in trouble talking about Orville Lions. Well, Joey says, what are the odds Larry would do 100%? Larry has told me he will do it anytime. So yeah, I'll get Larry on after Christmas, maybe. Can you provide a refresher on Orville Lions? Well, okay. I've talked about him a few times, but basically he's a suspect who the FBI somebody called them in the early 80s, woman, said that she used to date a guy in Seattle who I think she must have seen a rerun of In Search of or something. Something spurred her interest. Or maybe it was the 10-year anniversary. It could have been something in the 80s. Yeah, I bet that's what it was. It's probably more likely because of the timing to be the 1981 anniversary or whatever. There were a bunch of news stories. But she contacted the FBI and said, hey, I dated a guy in Seattle who was kind of a drifter. He had been a smoke jumper. He had been in the Marine Corps in Korea, had been wounded, kind of a sullen kind of guy, but a nice enough guy. And he disappeared not long after the hijacking. She said, my memory has been spurred. I remember, now that I think about it, it was around that same time that I never saw him again. So they put out just a APB, I guess, all persons bulletin saying, look, if any FBI ever come across Orville Lions, somehow that name ever dings a bell, let me know. It's about this would be Ron Nichols, the NORJAG agent up in Seattle. Let me know. And if so, somehow they came across Orville Lions in 1984, living in Tumsuba, Mississippi, which is, I bet Tumsuba doesn't have 400 people in that town. I bet if you Googled that, it'd be 400 people. But Tumsuba, he was working at a hotel there. His car had broken down. He was kind of a vagrant. I'm not a vagrant, but I mean, he was a guy who never had kids, never had a family. He just kind of drifted around. He's a drifter, I guess. A free spirit, sort of. But he had lived in Reno. He had lived in Phoenix. He had lived in Seattle and Portland. He was in Seattle in 71. He lived in Portland around that time as well, but he wasn't from the area. He was originally from Delaware. And so they find Orville Lions in Mississippi, and they say, hey, Nichols, do you want us to go interview this guy? He goes, yeah, go talk to him. Well, they go, these two FBI guys, they go, and this is all in the FBI files. They go and they talk to him. And when they introduce themselves, they say, hi, we're with the FBI. The very first thing he says to them is, oh, is this about the hijacking? Well, they are taken aback by that. We actually have their memo to Seattle, and they're like, oh my God. They're like, he brought up the hijacking, not us. That's creepy. This is 13 years later. We have their handwritten notes. Their 302 notes are actually in the FBI files. And they're like, fell out of, they asked why limping. Orville Lions was limping. He had a permanent limp. They said, why are you limping, sir? He goes, "Oh, I fell out of a tree in Seattle in fall of 71." Okay. So he falls out of a tree in Seattle in 71 and has a permanent limp because of it. They said he looks like the sketch, of course, but they were like, he really looks like the sketch. They said he's got swarthy complexion, yada yada. If you're looking for a photograph, let's see, do I have a photograph of Orville somewhere to show you guys? Oh, I do somewhere. Hang on. I'll find a photograph of Orville. But so, yeah, he's an intriguing suspect. I don't know what ruled him out. I have FOIA'd for his files. I haven't received them yet, but we've only seen a few of his files, but pretty intriguing fella. There's a college photograph of him. So you can see he's got that. I mean, I can't put them side by side, but you can see he's got that long face, right? And that kind of beakish little nose, sort of. So, but that's Orville Lions in college. Now Orville would have been 43 at the time of the hijacking, I think. So anyway, that's Orville Lions. Okay. Do you have a video on him saying he had a grudge? If not, why do you think he said that? It seems a little specific to say that he has no grudge on the airline. Well, he said that because it was a response to a question. Tina asked him. She said, "Sir, do you have a grudge against our airline?" So she put that word in his mouth. She asked him. She was like saying, "Why are you picking on Northwest Orient?" He said, "No, ma'am, I don't have a grudge against your airlines. I'm just have a grudge." Which to me, if you've watched me long enough, I mean, I'm a criminal defense attorney. I used to be a prosecutor. Every criminal's got a problem. It's never their fault, right? So every criminal could have a grudge, but it could also be something cool to say, right? What's he going to say? "No, miss, I don't have a grudge against your airline. I'm just a dirty thief," which is what he was in real life. So if I have 3 questions for Tina, I'll think Tina was in on it, of course. I would love to see a live with Larry. Yes, we will. We will do a live. Thank you, Sean. 778 population as of 2020 for Tumsuba, Mississippi. I think the best thing about Gryder's vids was his flight footage. What flight footage? Something about when he jumped out with the bag and let it go immediately to try to prove a point. Littered into the Columbia River. What new evidence developments are in the pipeline that we're waiting on? For example, Eric claims a tie knot opens and DB Cooper may have left DB DNA. I cannot express to people enough, I guess, when they're watching this, and I hate to disappoint, the FBI gives no shit about this case. None. In fact, when Larry will come on, he will mention that when his last stint as the case agent was in 2019 to 2022, he said he never even mentioned the Cooper case to his supervisors because he knew that they would flip out. Like the Seattle office hates the Cooper case because they get a call every day about it. Some media person, they hate the Cooper case. That's why they had to pretend that they closed the case. They didn't actually close the case, but they wanted the media to think they closed it. And ironically, and so the FBI don't ever comment on false leads. So when people are like, when Dan Gryder makes a big deal about the FBI came and took the parachute, we have no idea how many parachutes the FBI has collected in the past year, 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, 5 years, decade. No idea, because they're not going to tell us that. It's not like they put out think about that. If every false lead they got, they went and had a press conference or put out a statement, they don't do that. So Dan is using some illusions here by making it seem like a bigger deal than it is that the FBI came and took the parachute. The FBI have said this for a while. If you contact us with possible actionable evidence, which is a parachute, body, or money, we will send somebody to look at it. So we don't know how many parachutes have been looked at for Cooper. Gryder's not the only one. I doubt it. We just don't know those stories, right? Because they're not going to tell us that. All right. Yeah, it was so strange that he hid in the woods to film the FBI. I know. And apparently Rick McCoy himself, who's in the video, didn't know that Dan Gryder was doing that. It's just, look, I've talked to Shanti McCoy. I mean, the McCoys are good people. I mean, they really are. And it just stinks because Gryder is such a charismatic con man that he can con these people into believing this. And this is a con. I think Dan knows this isn't DB Cooper's parachute. I mean, sue me for defamation. Go ahead. I mean, prove that I'm wrong. Prove that I know that you're. I mean, no. Yeah. So yeah, Dan creeping in the woods filming Rick McCoy is creepy. That should tell the McCoy kids, hey, this guy's doing this for himself. He's not really helping us out. Okay. Peeping Tom Gryder. Yeah, Gryder was channeling, thank you, Mark. Gryder was channeling Geraldo Rivera when he hid in the woods. The only thing missing was the X-Files music. I know. The FBI. And of course, as Rick McCoy, thankfully to Rick was like, oh yeah, there were 8 cars showed up, but only like 2 of them were FBI cars. So when Dan's like 8 FBI cars showed up. No, it was a small place. It was like game wardens and local off-duty sheriffs and things. They just, hey, have DB Cooper stuff. People like DB Cooper. You know, they'll come check it out. Oh, I have no idea how to say that name. E-R, and I'm Irish. I should know this. William, isn't that William? Isn't that Liam is William, right? No, isn't that like Earam McCoss? Or is this another Simpsons name that you tried to get me to do? Yeah, Rekka's funny. Yeah. Any news on the Tina sand deposit theory? I don't know. No habla inglés on Tina Bar. Okay, I got a question. What do the different redaction codes on the 30? What? I don't know, actually, Mary. I don't think those mean anything. I'll have to ask. I mean, I guess they must mean something. But yeah, you're right. Some say B6, some say B77. I don't know. Ask ChatGPT that maybe. Do you think someone knows? Not DB specifically, but someone who may know but won't say. Maybe. I guess. I mean, yeah, it's possible, but I don't think you can't. It's hard to keep a secret if you tell somebody, right? So I don't know. I don't think so. I think that Cooper. I don't think he had anybody to tell. Honestly, I don't think he had much family. DB Cooper was Joe Weber. Yeah, I'll reveal that I've turned Team McCoy. Good God. And never ending. Okay. Yep. There you go, Mark. Nobody said the Cooper rig was U.S. Air Force. Every reference said MB-8 or Navy Backpack 6-8. Yeah, but yeah, Dan's parachute is a Air Force parachute. Again, we're looking for a Ford. Dan not only found a Chevy, but he found a Chevy that can't drive. So how is that the getaway car? Earworm in English. Earworm, it doesn't translate. Okay. All right, well then that's fine. Okay, yeah. So anyway, the new developments though, the FBI don't care. There are no new developments. I mean, the new developments are just going to be what nerds like us unearth, like finding people like Orville Lions in the files. Maybe we'll come across some stuff. And I mean, we can talk about the parachute stuff. Thank you, Chris. This is my best friend from college, law school, actually. I wish I knew you in college, Chris. You're a good dude. That's one of my best friends. Those are FOIA exemption codes. So don't know what those mean, but yep, those are exemption codes. Thank you. Those do show up. I've just never thought about what those were. How in the world did Dan get on CNN? I mean, Cooper, people, falsehoods fly and the truth comes limping behind. You can make up bullcrap and get on TV and nobody's going to fact check you. How many babies do I eat daily as a lawyer? I'm a good lawyer, actually. I actually get Christmas cards from clients. Like I have a 5-star rating, man. I don't do anything. I actually help people out. I don't I don't take bad cases. I don't defend bad dudes. That's the beauty of being your own lawyers. Somebody calls me and says, hey, I murdered somebody. I need a defense attorney. No, I'm not taking your case. Sorry. Yeah, I don't have to I can just do whatever I want to. More like a Pinto. I like Drew's suspect, Braden. Braden is, Braden's up there. And we got Skip Hall talking about Jurassic Park taught me that lawyers sucks blood. I mean, I don't disagree. I mean, there's bad people in every profession for sure. I could never do some of that stuff that these lawyers do. Ryan's one of the good guys. Thank you, Wendina. Everyone hates lawyers until they need one. It's true. I mean, that's just what it is. Dan especially hates a lawyer right now. That's for sure. Mark's right. Anybody who disagrees with Dan is insulted by him. That's not a good way to roll. Seriously. It's really not. Now, Dan, when Dan did this to me, when he crawfished me on his friggin' show there, and okay, yeah, I mean, maybe he made it personal for sure at that point. But I said, Dan, he was such a jerk about it. I messaged him. I said, Dan, why did you have me on your show? Why were you so nice to me to get me on your show? And then halfway through your show, start insulting me. Why would you do that? And he was like, oh, you should have seen your face. You know the truth now. And you owe a duty to everybody. And you're a sucker. And he's like just berating me. And I'm like, in this email, I'm like, why would you burn a bridge? With anybody in this? Why would you want to burn bridges in the vortex? He's like, I don't care about bridges. I don't care about relationships with you or anybody. I don't need a relationship with you or anybody. I'm like, okay, man. I gave him a chance and I never should have, but I'll give anybody a chance once. And I'd never even talked to Dan Gryder. So when he messaged me, I was like, hey, will you come on my show? I was like, yeah, I told him, I said, Dan, not supposed to, people have warned me about you, but yeah, he is a sad character, really. It's sad. It's just, there's no reason. Like, why would you pick on me of all things? I was like, Dan, I'd have Dan on my show. I would have. He could talk about McCoy. I wouldn't even challenge him that hard. I'm not going to be a jerk. But I was like, Dan, why would you insult me for no reason? I've done nothing to you. I don't think I've ever even mentioned the guy's name on my show before. If he doesn't like me, it's because my McCoy video did pretty well. And my McCoy video from last year has influenced a lot of people against McCoy. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I did the right thing by giving him a chance. Yeah. I am the lowest of the low. How are you transposing 302s and other documents into your database? Manually? It's a PDF. So the documents are released in a PDF every month. And I just add them to a PDF portfolio. I OCR scan them so I can scan them and I add them to a portfolio. And now we are on 100 Vault documents. So we got 45,000 pages that is all searchable on a database. Anybody could build one if you wanted to. So it's PDFs. I just do searches. Why aren't the RECA people going after Gryder? Because the RECA people actually have some class. I'll say that. Lisa Story, RECA's niece, is about as nice of a person as you can meet. Vern Jones is a decent guy. I think Carl Lauren was a good guy. The RECA people, the RECA grift, they're not bad people. Like, they're not unscrupulous people, I don't think. Like, Dan is unscrupulous. Like, that's, again, the man took, even if you believe Dan Gryder, here's the question. Okay, look, if I find DB, just imagine yourself in a suspect's house and you come across a parachute in a suspect's stuff. I'm going to do a little more than go, oh, well, this is it. We solved it. Wait, we just solved it right here. I'm going, oh my God. And I'm saying, back up, back up, back up. I'm like, nobody touched this thing. because it's got DNA on it, whatever. Like, just back up. Like, I'm not touching this thing. And yet he not only touched it, adds and subtracts props to it, put a ripcord handle on it, lets people wear it, keeps it in his house, I guess, from what? He found it in July of 2022 and doesn't give it to the FBI until September of 2023. Okay. This canopy, which he just proclaims is Cooper's canopy without even knowing anything about it. This canopy, he cut pieces from the canopy, took it on CNN. This is pieces from the canopy. Where's a CNN host going, why would you destroy evidence? Like, why would you mutilate DB Cooper's parachute? No one asked him that. I mean, wait, there's laughing idiots. Oh, look at this, DB Cooper's canopy. Not going, why would you cut this as a souvenir? Like, what are you doing? Yeah, he has a huge audience. Yeah, Dan has a huge audience. He's got 100,000 subscribers. Yes, Big Cat says it was terrible acting on Gryder's part. I will say nothing, but yeah, I won't comment any further on that. But you might not be wrong. Would you want your dominant hand holding a trigger wire if the bomb was real? I don't think the bomb was armed. I just say that. I mean, the bomb might have been real, but I just can't imagine it's armed. I mean, there's turbulence and stuff, right? There's turbulence. You're bouncing around. I mean, it could have been real, but I don't think it was armed at that point. Because what's the point, right? I mean, the threat alone would have been enough to keep him from being jumped by anybody on the plane. So if the bomb was real, it was only going to be real as a method of blowing himself up to kill himself. So, and it was a threat, right? So I don't think he was never going to explode he would never have needed to explode the bomb in midair. Why would he have done that? I don't think again, the passengers weren't aware that what was going on. And even if they were aware of what was going on, I don't know of any instances other than the Paulsini thing where they actually attacked a hijacker, crew and passengers actually attacked the guy. I don't know of any instances, not with the copycats for sure, where they actually, they fought them. So, they're just going to, again, hijackers, this is kind of common back then. There were 150 hijackings in America in a 5-year period. So it was almost like a national pastime. It was like, oh, we're getting hijacked. Oh, we're going to Cuba. It was almost like an adventure to them. So, and there'd never been a hijacking that had really gone wrong to that point. So they weren't really scared of hijackers killing them or crashing the plane or anything like that. So hijackings weren't a deadly affair generally at that time. There had been one earlier that month, or maybe it was the month before, in Jacksonville. And there's a suspect named Joe Lakich who his daughter was killed in that hijacking, but it happened very rarely. So yeah, I think, but so the dominant hand, I just don't think the bomb was armed, because I don't want the bomb, even if it was real, it's not armed, I don't think. Nobody believes Dan Gryder. Well, a lot of people do, unfortunately. Nobody who actually is discerning believes Dan Gryder. Have I looked into Cooper working working for Psionics and or Mac? I don't know what this means. Sorry. They made firearms and silencers. Oh, well, let Nikki know about that. Nikki, if you're watching, look into this. I think I've tried to connect you with Nikki before. Don't you work in that field, or you have a degree in that stuff? I think we've talked before. Let's see. That's a good, there we go. Perfect. Thank you, Sean. Problem with so many of these sleuths in the vortex is they're trying to find why their suspect is Cooper versus why it's not. Yeah, see, that's not scientific, right? Scientific method would say that you try to disprove why your person is you try to disprove your own theory, essentially, is scientific method. And Yeah, a lot of people don't do that. They don't hold their suspects' feet to the fire. And so they just, you're right. They don't, I mean, they don't look at why the guy isn't Cooper. He does make up facts to suit his story. Absolutely. I mean, him saying that Earl Cossey said that he put Capewells and D-rings onto Cooper's parachute, that does not exist. That is fiction. Like, he literally made that up. That is a lie. That is like me saying, yeah, you know, when I was in high school, I had Ronald McDonald red hair and it stuck out to here. I mean, like, this is just a lie. Just a fault. Like Pinocchio nose going out, like lie. So no, that is a lie. There is no such thing. Like, what's amazing about Dan is he keeps waving around Bruce Smith's book. Bruce, this book says this. Well, why don't you take a screenshot and put it up on your monitor for everybody to see? Why don't you do that? In fact, you know what, folks? Let's do that. Let's look at what bullshit Cossey told Bruce Smith. And it was bullshit. He admitted to Larry Carr that this sort of stuff was bullshit. But let's look at the bullshit. Let's look at the bullshit that is in Bruce's book that Cossey told Bruce. Let's try to find that. Okay. Give me 1 second. Here they are. All right. These are the only two, these are what Dan Gryder is relying on to suggest that the container was stitched to make it bigger, that there were D-rings, Capewells. This is where all of this comes from. Okay. I'll read it for those who are listening to it. This is Bruce, page 92. Specifically, Cossey told me that he had changed the placement of the ripcord, making it harder for a WUFO to find in the tough conditions of a November night jump. He also installed a pouch to hide the ripcord handle so that it would not be snagged while getting on board a jump plane. And as a result, the user would need to double pull on the ripcord, first pulling out and then thrusting upwards to get the chute to deploy properly. Again, much tougher for a WUFO to use. So that quote is just talking about that what Earl, normally, if your ripcord is on your left chest, he's saying that Cossey's saying that he moved the ripcord to the right side and would pull out, would yank it like this instead of like yanking it across your chest. You just yank it like straight out. Okay. So that's what he's saying. That's nothing about, so he is saying that he moved the ripcord handle. Okay. So that's number one. Number two, Cossey, now deceased, but in 1971, a Woodinville, Washington skydiving champion and certified parachute rigger told me in 2009 that he had provided a military NB6, which is akin to the Navy's NB8, but smaller. Yet Cossey, who preferred being called Koss, said he overstuffed the container with a 28-foot canopy, even though the NB6 would normally take a 26-foot chute. Cossey said this would make deploying the back chute very difficult. That's it. Overstuffed. Okay, overstuffed an MB6. Well, that behind me, right there, which I showed in my video, is a 28-foot canopy shoved into a MB6. You do not need to do stitching. You do not need to do alterations. You do not need to go to Omar the tent maker and get fabric to make this huge canopy, to make this container big. Okay, so nothing in there about D-rings, nothing in there about Capewells, nothing in there about stitching a bag together. Like, these are inventions by Dan Gryder. So that is why Dan Gryder will wave around Bruce's book, but never show his audience what is in the book. Because what's in the book is not what he is saying is in the book. He is lying to people. So there. Gryder says he talked to and knew Cossey. Bullshit. I know he talked to Cossey's kids. I know Gryder. I cannot imagine ever met. If Mark never met Cossey, Mark's in the chat. If Mark never met Cossey, then Gryder is not meeting Cossey. Okay. DB Cooper very well could have jumped with his chute deployed. This would allow him to inspect and ensure it wasn't tampered with. Well, what you would do is you would just go to the bottom of the stairs and pull it, and it would yank you. back. And if it didn't yank you back, well, then it was a failed parachute and you could walk back up the stairs and put the other one on. Huh. What's the difference between a Gryder fact and a regular fact? Quite a bit. The truth. I wonder why the FBI spent so much time and resources on John List. He had some mental issues. I mean, I don't think they spent a lot of time on him. He was worthy of investigating. I mean, look, you know, this guy kills, what do they call that when you kill your family? I forget what that's called. There's a horrible term for it. It's like family exterminator or something. It's a terrible, terrible term, but he was a family exterminator. And he had done that like a month before, and he was on the run and was the same age as Cooper, the same height, the same brown eyes, same little skinny little nose. I mean, like if John List wasn't found in 1989, then he would be the patron saint for the dead camp. Family annihilator. Thank you there. Family annihilator. That's the actual like clinical term for that. Now, patricide's when you kill your parents, I think, right? Yeah, no, family annihilator is the actual clinical term for what he did. Yeah. Terrible. Let's see, MB6 or MB8. Yeah, I mean, MB6 or MB8, we don't know. I mean, they're kind of the same. I mean, they're roughly the same. I mean, it's you can't really tell them apart, really. I mean, the volume's a little bit bigger, but they're kind of hard to tell apart. But no, John List would have been a good suspect. I mean, if he had never been found because of unsolved mysteries, if he had not been found, he would be, like I said, the patron saint of the Jude Morrow dead camp. Because, yeah, I mean, this is a guy who just killed his family. He's on the run. What does he have to lose? This guy's probably suicidal, right? So he's, you know, and like I said, he fit the profile very well, actually. Skinny face, skinny nose, receding hair, balding, nerdy, wore suits all the time. So he lost his job, and he would pretend to go to work. He would dress up every day in a suit and would just go sit at the bus station and read the paper and come home and tell his wife he was still working. That's a ghoulish story. If you look up the John List family murders, that's really disgusting. But yeah, and if John List was Cooper, Darren brings this up a lot, Darren Schaefer. If John List was Cooper, why wouldn't he just admit that? He's already being caught for murdering his family. Why not just admit to being Cooper? And another thing about McCoy's lawyer, McCoy's lawyer was asked, they interviewed McCoy's, I came across this article in the 80s when the real McCoy book came out, and everybody was kind of reinterested in McCoy as Cooper. They talked to McCoy's lawyer for his hijacking trial. And he said, I have no reason to think that he was Cooper. He never said a word to me. And this is after McCoy's dead, right? So there's no, your confidentiality with a client ends when the guy dies. All right. So as long as there's no other interest out there, and Karen McCoy would not have been an interest because the statute of limitations would have run on her anyway. But no, he said, McCoy never gave me any indication. And in fact, it would have been beneficial for McCoy if he was Cooper to admit to have been Cooper. It actually would have helped. It sounds counterintuitive. You would say, well, if you're admitting to a second crime, you'll have double the punishment or whatever. Not really. It actually might have helped. It would have helped him to admit to being Cooper if he was. He might have got a lighter sentence in exchange for that, because like, hey guys, I can save you a lot of time and energy. You literally in April 72, when this hijacking occurs and he's on trial the next month, there are 3 guys in the Seattle office, John Detler, Charlie Farrell, Don Steele, whose entire job the government is paying these men to do nothing but Cooper. Okay. So it would have benefited McCoy. He could have worked out a deal. As a lawyer myself who works out deals with the with federal agents and U.S. attorneys, I do that. I've done that. That is something you do. And he absolutely would have just said, hey, I'm Cooper too. I can solve that one for you guys. And I want a better deal. I don't want 45 years in prison. I'll take 20 years in prison if I admit to this or whatever. it would have benefited him to admit to being McCoy, to admit to being Cooper, but McCoy did not. And again, his lawyer himself, after McCoy's dead, no confidentiality, said McCoy never said a word to me about being Cooper. He was a copycat. He was obsessed with Cooper. Like, duh. Okay. Is the Ariel store ever going to reopen? I don't think so. I mean, I think it's dilapidated. Is that rig behind you? Yeah, that's behind me. That's the yeah, that's the two-saw rig. I just got that. Yeah, that's my older rig that I bought. Yeah, that's the one right there. That's my Cooper shoot. Ryan, in your years of law practice, have you ever heard of someone appealing a stalking restraining order? No. Why would you do that? Like, that is, like I said, I can't get into it, but yeah, you can Google it yourself, people. But yeah, I've never heard. That's shocking, to file a writ of cert with the Supreme Court of a state to get a restraining order reversed. Like, if somebody doesn't want to be around you, then don't be around them. It's not complicated. I mean, especially when it's not like your kid or something. I mean, there's no familiar interest or something, right? This was a lady. So that's creepy. All right. Gryder claims McCoy's son submitted DNA to the FBI by the request. Gryder claims it was a partial match. That's total BS. I agree. McCoy's son did give DNA. That's true, because there was an open lead. In fact, if you look at the FBI files, there is an FBI file that not redacted that came out a couple years ago, where there is still an open lead in the Norjack case. Okay, Norjack, every investigation has open leads. There is an open lead to collect McCoy DNA from like 2003. They tried to collect McCoy's DNA. They called his wife, called Karen, and said, "Hey, look, can we get some, maybe you have like a hairbrush or something of his that has his hair, and she hung up on him." She goes, "It's not my problem that you guys can't solve a 30-year-old hijacking," and hung up. So there was an open lead with the FBI to get McCoy DNA if they ever could. So they got McCoy's DNA. And they would have run it pretty quickly against the DNA that's on file, which is not Cooper's DNA. There's 3, I highly doubt it. There's 3 partial profiles of DNA. And I highly doubt that any of that is Cooper's DNA. And again, there can't be, let me try to explain this to people. So the DNA that was found on the tie, 3 partial profiles of DNA. So 3 different people's DNA was found on the tie when they did whatever they did to it in 2002. 3 partial profiles. These 3 individual profiles are so partial, okay, that millions, perhaps tens of millions of people could have a false positive match to a fragment of it, right? It's not full segment. It's a fragments of DNA. So really, it's useless. And the FBI would use this and go, well, if you like say, okay, Ryan is suspect. I'm a suspect. Okay. My DNA is used. They take my DNA. If I have a positive hit to one of those 3 profiles, that does not mean I'm DB Cooper. Okay. So the FBI could not use it to make somebody Cooper. That wouldn't work. But they used it for exclusionary purpose. So they would say, well, if Ryan's DNA doesn't match with any of these 3, then he's not Cooper. Which the problem with that is also a problem, because we don't know if any of those are Cooper's DNA. If you have 3, you may as well have none, because it shows that the tie is contaminated. So that's where the tie is. And again, that tie was passed around like a joint at a college party. I mean, that thing was put in the mail all the time. I mean, rumors that agents wore it at parties. I used to think that was a rumor. I have reason to believe maybe that might have actually happened at some point. They did not know about DNA back then. They did not care about wearing gloves and not sneezing around it or whatever. Larry Carr never tested any suspect against the DNA because he was told, like the first day he got the gig, he called the crime lab and said, "Hey, tell me about Cooper DNA." And they basically laughed at him. They were like, "Hey, man, these are 3 real partial profiles and they ain't worth a shit." And so if you can't make somebody be Cooper because of a DNA match, and you can't trust that any of that DNA is Cooper's to begin with, so you shouldn't exclude somebody from being Cooper because they don't match, then what's the point? So that DNA is pointless. We need to find Cooper's hair. That hair is somewhere almost certainly in the Las Vegas office in a file folder somewhere. So if anybody's got connections to anybody in the FBI in Vegas, that is where Cooper's hair probably is. It's on a microscope slide somewhere. It's just misplaced, sadly. Yeah, I'm starting to think Ryan's going to have to make a questions I'd asked in a Mucklow video. Since, I'd probably grill on what hand he cut the shroud lines with. I don't think she'd remember that. She admitted that she wasn't paying too much to him cutting it with the shroud lines. So, yeah, somebody asked me earlier, did Cooper have a knife? Yes, we know he had a knife because he cut he cut the shroud lines with the knife. It was a pocket knife, she said. What is the best documentary overall to show someone to introduce them to the case? The HBO one, The Mystery of D.B. Cooper on HBO. It's short, like an hour and a half. It's not overly indulgent like the Netflix one is. It's not self-important like the Ragstraw, Hulu, whatever Case Closed was. It's the best one for sure. Yeah, HBO one. Yeah. I mean, you have to deal with Weber and Dayton and McCoy and L.D. Cooper in there, which L.D. Cooper is a better suspect than I thought. And I think I might be on a podcast coming out soon with Darren, a Vortex episode, maybe. So I don't want to give that away, but LD's better than I thought. Okay. Yes. Did Tusaw also have some Tina Bar 20s? Yes, he was paid. Tusaw was the lawyer for Brian Ingram and his family when they sued to get the money back from the FBI. And the federal judge, I forget the exact numbers, but the federal judge said the FBI could keep 13 of the 20s and that Brian and the insurance company would split the rest. So I think Brian and I want to say Brian and the insurance company each got like 136 20s or something. And and his payment, I feel like Tusaw got to pick the best 8 or something like that of the Cooper 20s, maybe 5, 6, 7. I don't know. I don't know where those are. I don't know where those are. I got, like I said, his estate. I got the parachute from the estate, but don't think there are any 20s still around. I think those would have been sold, or I think they got rid of those. Okay, there we go. Jumper. There's Mark. I knew. Yeah, Dennis is the one. There you go. Yeah, Dennis is the one who said that, Mark, in that article. I knew Dennis Reardon, one of the lawyers who represented McCoy. He was a straight shooter. Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's the name from the article. He said McCoy didn't say anything about being Cooper and would have benefited him to be Cooper. McCoy told quite a bit of people about his second hijacking. What are the chances he would never tell them about his first hijacking? Nil. McCoy talked a lot, for sure. Yeah, the appeal of that restraining order is downright bizarre. It really is. I've never heard of you appealing a restraining order to the Supreme Court. That's strange. I'm sure you covered it, but why the F would you keep the chute? Why not just bury it in the woods? Yeah, no. The only reason McCoy, I'm pretty sure the only reason McCoy kept the chute that he jumped with during his actual hijacking was because it wasn't his parachute. It was Larry Patterson's parachute that he had to use. So he did, when he landed, he stashed the money and the parachute inside of a culvert underneath a road and went and got a milkshake at a local place, still wearing his jumpsuit, and gets a ride from Pete Zimmerman. It's a 16-year-old kid, gives him $5 and Pete Zimmerman drops him off at his house, like not down the road, not in the neighborhood. McCoy's like, here's where I live. So McCoy not too bright sometimes, but when he got to the house, he got his car and he went and drove back to the spot and got the parachute and the money and kept it in his house. Again, not a smart criminal. Don't keep evidence of a capital crime in your house, people. Just lawyerly advice. If you ever commit a capital crime, listen to your friendly local defense attorney, lowest of the low Mississippi attorney. Don't keep evidence in your house of a crime. But he did. But no, he kept his parachute because he had to, because he had borrowed it from a buddy and his buddy would have wanted it back. So, but no, Mac actually took a crap in his parachute, famously. McNally took a crap in his parachute and stomped on it and said, I can't wait for the FBI to find this. So no, you don't take there's no reason to take your parachute with you. It's before DNA. It wouldn't matter. You just throw some leaves over it and move on. They found Heinemann's parachute just in the woods somewhere. They found Hetty's parachute stashed in like some brush. None of these guys are going to haul their parachute off and then modify it into some Frankenstein thing. It's stupid. But there you go. There you go. As a lawyer, how easy would it be to defend McCoy if they took him to trial for the Cooper skyjacking? Easy as shit. Like, all you got to do is put Tina Mucklow on the stand and you say, Ms. Mucklow, or Miss Mucklow, she would have been, Miss Mucklow is the man who hijacked your flight on November 24th, 1971 in this building. And she would say, no, I do not recognize anyone in this building as being my hijacker. We call to the stand Miss Florence Schaffner from Conway, Arkansas. Miss Schaffner, did the man who handed you this ransom note on November 24th, 71, is he in the courtroom presently? Will you point him out to us? Sir, I cannot do so. Why is that? Because he is not here. We call to the stand Miss Alice Hancock. You get the men, you get it. If you cannot point out, like, if the primary witnesses cannot identify the guy who was not wearing a disguise, he's wearing sunglasses, okay, especially Florence Schaffner. If they're going to say, or they would say, I would say, can I have the defendant speak to the stewardesses? I would say, can I have them, I would have McCoy read something. Okay. Ask the stewardesses, is this the voice of the man? No. Defending McCoy will be so damn easy. Like, that's why he was never prosecuted, because he wasn't Cooper. And generally, I know it's TV and stuff, people do get wrongfully convicted sometimes, but it's far less common than you think. Like, to be convicted wrongfully in this country, there's a lot of steps. You have to go through an initial appearance, a preliminary hearing, indictment, all the months of prosecutorial discretion where they could just dismiss it, a trial, appeals. I mean, like, it happens, and it's tragic when it happens. It does happen. I think Curtis Flowers is a famous example from Mississippi. That's my uncle-in-law, actually, sort of. The prosecutor on that case who tried Curtis Flowers 5 times for the same crime. That's Uncle Doug. But that's a case where an innocent person, was accused of something. But it happens, but not as common as you think. So McCoy wasn't Cooper, and they were never going to convict McCoy for being Cooper because he wasn't Cooper. Okay. Somebody, hey, tu hablas español. How did the money get to Tina Bar? Somebody buried it there. I have no idea why. Maybe he lost the money during the jump and went to look for it and drowned somehow. the problem is, look, the only water that they flew over was really the Lewis River and the Columbia River. The Lewis River is, low enough sometimes you can walk across it. It's not, I don't know, 50 yards or something. Lewis River is not a raging river, okay? The Columbia River, going that speed, they were only over the Columbia for, let's see, Columbia is half a mile wide. They're going 3 miles a minute, so I'm not good at math. Was it 10 seconds? Yeah. So they're only over the Columbia River for 10 seconds. They're only over the Lewis River for probably less than a second even. So there's not water for him to go drown in, I don't think. Starting to think Cooper landed at Tina Bar. Not possible, Scooter. Not possible. That just isn't possible. The flight path, nowhere near there. We know where the plane was. There is no auriculus, as Gryder calls Eric Eulis. Can say what he wants. The radar was working fine. This was the most advanced radar in the world at the time. They were able to, the Cooper flight, as soon as they were hijacked, they turned their transponder code to 3300 or whatever it was. And as soon as you turn your transponder code on, automatically the Sage radar system recorded their position on a hard drive. 71, they had computers, and primitive, but they recorded that plane's position in real time as it was flying. And so the very next day, they were able to give a complete flight path map to the FBI from the Air Force Base. So that plane did not go anywhere near Tina Bar. And in fact, Tina Bar is about 7 or 8 miles west of the flight path. And the winds were blowing to the east. So even if like some gale force wind, like the wind was blowing the wrong way, so he wasn't going to be blown. Basically they calculated that if he pulled immediately, which you might do, if he pulled immediately, I think they said he could have drifted at most like 2.5 miles. And he drifted 2.5 miles northeast, not southwest, which is where Tina Bar would have been. So the opposite direction. Tina Bar is not a landing spot for Cooper, full stop. It's as unlikely as Dan Gryder's parachute being DB Cooper's parachute. So no, I understand why people would think that. 302s refer to Cooper's hair as a hair clipping. I think, does that mean Cooper had a haircut? Or would they have cut it to mount it on a slide? I think that's probably just FBI nomenclature of something. I don't think it just means a piece of a hair, probably. Do I like Oasis? I do, actually. Big fan of Oasis. I think that their first 2 albums are some of the best albums of the 90s for sure. Third album, Be Here Now, has got some good tracks on it. But yeah, I like the first 2 albums a lot. The drummer on the first album wasn't that good. They definitely upgraded their drummer. I'm a drummer, so they definitely upgraded. Do I have a Cooper tie? I do. Somewhere over there. Yeah, I do. Okay. Damn, now I have to get rid of all the shotguns and bank bags. Yeah. I feel that with $500,000, McCoy could buy his friend a nicer parachute. Yeah, but that would call attention to yourself. I agree. Mucklow would get you an acquittal. Yeah, I know. Let's see. Ryan, I'm not sure if you discussed this before. Can you speak to the Cooper letters? Do any pique your attention? No, I've never, I don't even write about them in my book, and maybe I should. Maybe people get mad at me if I don't, but I don't put any stock in those, because Cooper was meticulous about not leaving evidence behind. He did not want to be identified. That sort of taunting the authorities is it's either a hoax or you're like a serial killer or something like that. That's not normal. Like that, I don't know of bank robbers who do that or whatever. That just doesn't seem likely. No, none of them piqued my interest. Only one, and in fact, they all call themselves DB Cooper except for one. One says, I am Dan Cooper, which is nice, but Dan Cooper was known. That wasn't like people didn't know that Dan Cooper was his alias. People have always known, who've paid attention, that Dan Cooper was the real alias, not DB Cooper. There you go. Mark's right. Yeah. In Mississippi, the same way. In California, McCoy would not have been held to answer for Norjack after a preliminary examination. There'd be no trial. Yeah. I would have a preliminary hearing for McCoy if he was my client. Preliminary hearing, and I would have the testimony of Tina Mucklow. I would subpoena her to be there, and she would say, this is not the guy who hijacked my plane. Federal judge would dismiss that crap and would get mad at the FBI for bringing it to him. That's the thing about the FBI too. The feds, man, if you're caught by the feds, you're kind of screwed. In so many words, I try not to tell that to my clients, but it's like, hey, if the feds got you, we got to work out a deal, because if the feds got you, they got you. They don't waste time on dumb stuff. Well, they do waste time on dumb stuff, but they will get a conviction for sure. How could Cooper have drowned if he jumped over Clay Ellam? Half a mile every 10 seconds. There you go. If I gave you $1,000, oh my God. If I gave you $1,000 but said you had to bet it all on one of the existing Cooper suspects, who would you put it on? Orville Lions. I don't like him. I don't know why you would. He seems fishy to me. Orville Lions seems like he meets a lot of the things that we look for with Cooper. Kind of a drifter, guy that didn't have family. Nobody was going to miss him if he's gone for Thanksgiving. Had been a smoke jumper, I believe. Brought up the hijacking, was considered a swarthy individual. Was about 6 feet tall, had a turkey gobble thing. There's a side profile photograph that the FBI took. Maybe I have that of him. It's really, I've FOIA'd for the actual photograph, but what do I have? That Lions side profile, the one that they took. They said, "Hey, can we take your picture?" He said, "Sure." Let's see. Do I have Lions? Do I have that photograph of him taken from the side? I think it's really bad quality. Yeah, I do. Yeah, this is him. He's older. He's in his mid 50s, but there's the photograph that they took of Lions when he's in his 50s. You can see he's got the kind of a turkey gobble thing going on there. Now he's in his 50s, and he got sideburns. Hey, Cooper had sideburns. That might be. Somebody asked me, what is a piece of evidence that people just always overlook with Cooper? Sideburns. Cooper had sideburns to the low ear level. So whatever that means, that might even be lower than mine. But lower ear level is what Tina said. Sometimes you'll read it as mid ear level, which I guess is what mine are. But Cooper had sideburns. I think that's an overlooked detail. Certainly kind of excludes Barb Dayton, right? I don't think Barb Dayton had sideburns. I don't think so. Good luck. How do you spell Orville's last name? Lions. You won't find information on him on Google. Lyons. You're not going to find Orville Lions information on Google. Good luck. It's a miracle I found his name at all, honestly. As I've told people, the way I found Orville Lions' name, his name was redacted. And if you study the redactions, you can see the spacing. So I think they used Calibri font, the typewriters for the FBI. And Calibri is I don't know what the technical term is, but the spacing is equal in all the documents, right? So you can count the letters. And Orville Lions, I was like, who the hell is this guy? And the main reason I wanted to know who he was is because the last time the Cooper hair is in the FBI files is when they're comparing. They pulled out they did not do hair comparisons very often. I've only found them doing it 3 times. They did it with McCoy. They did it with some guy in LA. I could not figure out his name. They liked this LA suspect a lot, but his name's been redacted this whole time. He must still be alive. But then, probably not actually. Usually these people are dead and they just don't unredact their names. But anyway, and Orville Lions. So they've used 3 times. And Orville Lions, that's the last time the hair shows up in the FBI files is when Orville Lions. So I was like, who's this guy? I don't know his name. So I was able to measure out his first, middle, and last names. It's Orville Andrew Lions. And I didn't know his name was, right? I just knew that his name had, however many letters in the first, middle, and last name. And I knew that he was from Delaware, not a big state. And I knew that he was a Marine in Korea who was wounded. And if you recall, back in those days, they would say Ryan Burns in the paper, Ryan Burns, son of Patty and Rick Burns, was wounded in the Incheon Reservoir on November 15th, 1951, or whatever, and was awarded a Purple Heart by General MacArthur, whatever. That sort of stuff is in the papers. So I just went on newspapers.com and I was like, Marine, wounded, Purple Heart, Korea. Looked for like 1951, 52, Delaware, right? Delaware papers. And by some miracle, I came across a guy whose name matched all those things, Orville Andrew Lions. I was like, okay, well, I mean, coincidence, whatever. I mean, there's lots of Marines from Delaware, although maybe not. Delaware's pretty small. But sure enough, I went on to Ancestry.com and typed in Orville Andrew Lions, and bada bing, bada boom, I saw that where he had a connection to Mississippi, to Columbus, Mississippi, which is near Tumsuba. And I'm like, well, that's the guy. And I notified, you can send a thing to the FBI and say, stop redacting this person's name. They're dead, damn it. And so that's what, so I sent them and I said, hey, stop redacting this guy. He's dead. And I sent them the Social Security Death Index card or whatever. You can send them a JPEG and they'll stop. I don't know why Robert Gregory still gets redacted all the time in the FBI files. Robert Gregory was the oldest passenger on the plane. Robert Gregory would be 124 years old right now if he was still alive. So, and they only have to redact you if you were born over 100 years ago, they stop redacting. So I don't know why I have Gregory, but we have like Cord Spreckle, who died like 2 years ago when he was 75. He's not redacted. But Robert Gregory, the oldest passenger on the plane, who was 71 at the time at the hijacking, he gets redacted all the time. Yeah, there's just not a lot about Orville Lions out there. Like I said, I don't trust, and I hate to be like, I don't trust them, but like where the FBI file ends on Lions so far, we're going to get Lions eventually in the suspect files that are coming out now, but where it ends is, they're like, well, the fingerprints don't match. And they're like, well, we can't really trust those. So let's maybe show a photograph to the girls, which they rarely did that. After like 76, there's a document where they're like, we can stop bothering these girls. They actually have an official like thing. It's like, unless it is absolutely necessary to eliminate a suspect, do not bother them, because both the main witnesses, Tina and Flo, have told us, I cannot remember his face anymore. Stop showing me photographs. And so there's a memo. It's like, stop bothering these girls. And, but with Lions, they were like, look, we need to show the girls his photograph, but there's no record. I mean, I'm sure that they would have said it's not him. Right. But again, the photograph that they're seeing is from the 80s. And also it's 13 years later, and Tina said she forgot Cooper's face within like a year. So I would not trust a photo elimination that was done that long afterwards. It's one thing to eliminate McCoy's photo 5 months later or whatever, but over a decade later, no way. Okay. Gregory must have been sus or a special agent. No, Gregory was a paint store owner. We know that. Yeah, Mary says they had a document not to bother the witnesses with unnecessary photos. God, let me take another drink, folks. Anyways, okay. The parachute is what we're going to talk about. I mean, I didn't do this for vengeance. I saw where the Tucson estate, by way of another guy, was selling this thing. And I said, you know what? I'll take it. And I took it. And I think it's great. And I love it. I love having, I'll pull up there. I'll show a photo of it. Yeah. Here's the packing card right there. What's funny about this, ironically, is Perry Stevens, who actually taught, Mark is in the chat. I believe Perry Stevens taught Mark how to skydive. Is that right, Mark? So, yes, thank you, Mary. The real billion to 1 in a billion rig. Thank you. Yeah. So Perry Stevens is who taught Mark how to skydive, and Perry Stevens' paraloft is where McCoy wanted his parachute to come from. So McCoy's flight was originally going from Denver to LA. How about that? July 5th, 72. That's 10 years before I was born. I was born July 5th, 82. Anyway, I just noticed that. Anyway, McCoy lands in San Francisco, and he says, I want 4 Pioneer commanders from Stevens' paraloft. So there's a nice connection there, is this packing card here. We've got Stevens' paraloft, which is where McCoy wanted his parachutes from. Then you have Earl Cossey. Then on the back of it, we've got there the ink is a little darker on the left side, presumably because if you look at it, because of the where it was folded, I guess. Maybe it was the left side had less exposure to the elements, I guess, because it's a little faded it's more faded on the right side. But it looks like, yeah, the canopy, I guess, was originally a seat pack, I guess. But I don't know who would have written DB Cooper on there. I'm guessing Cossey. I don't know. I bet Cossey wrote that, because I doubt Tussaud would have written that. I'd like to see some of Cossey's handwriting, but that I could see. I mean, it's both in blue ink, so I bet it's the same hand that wrote it all. Probably Cossey's. There we go. Yes, Perry taught me. He also packed the 26 Navy Conical Reserve that saved my life in 72. Mark and I will need to do it. Mark, you need to come on. I think we'll do a show, me and you. We'll talk. You can tell skydiving stories. I think everybody would like. For those who don't know, Mark's been skydiving for over 50 years. He was insulted that he wasn't questioned for being DB Cooper, because it was a badge of honor. Says, so I owe a lot to Perry. He passed away a few years ago. Yeah. Hello, Dodge Ram. Yep. Yeah, Perry Stevens. So anyway, that is the parachute. And I don't know how Gryder, like I said, he attacked. So, I mean, what would his attack even be? I think he has to ignore this, because, his response to 80 documents from the FBI and from the media, even saying that it was an unmodified MB6 or whatever, military chute, whatever it was. Well, you can't trust that. The FBI had an agenda to kill McCoy. And what's funny is, like, he gets all revved up, and then, like, as soon as his logic comes out, he's like a wind-up toy. He's like, and then they killed McCoy because okay. And then they killed McCoy because they had to silence him, because when they wanted to make him it's like logic, like it just like turns off his brain. It makes no sense. Like, if they killed McCoy, let's just try to. I sit there and go like this. Like, why are they? What are they doing this? Like, what is he thinking? Okay, so the FBI put out a hit on McCoy, is what he's saying, because they were embarrassed that he had foiled them because he was Cooper. So if they're that dastardly to execute a guy because they're mad that he was Cooper, then A, they should have had enough evidence to make him Cooper, and B, you frame the dead guy. You could frame the dead guy a lot easier, so then you kill him to... Yeah, okay. See, it makes no sense. It's like the Chewbacca defense. It did not make sense. None of this makes sense. It does not make sense. Like, nothing he says ever makes any sense. Again, why would he? You know what I'm going to do? When I commit a capital crime, I'm going to keep a keepsake from it, and I'm going to give it to my mother. That's what I'm going to do. That's what he says. He goes, he gave it as a keepsake to his mother, the parachute. What? Like, when? Like, this is so bonkersly stupid. Like, everything, and the fact that people, again, I don't, like, or it's just him straight up lying. Like, he goes, there are gas receipts where he was in Vegas Thanksgiving Day. Yeah, you know where else there are gas receipts from on that day? Provo, Utah. So, yeah, maybe I can pull that up. Yeah. So, yeah, the gas receipts we keep talking about, those were also that was also he got gas in friggin' Provo that day. Let me try to find that for you guys. Oh man, do I really not have that somewhere? Dadgummit. Ugh. I'll have to find it some other time. But anyway, yes, he got he got gas in Provo, Utah. There is an FBI file saying we looked at his credit card statements. He got gas in Provo, Utah, the Thanksgiving Day. So when Dan's like, their only alibi is this for Thanksgiving Day is this mystery exchange student. Well, no. We also have the sister, Denise. Okay. We also have another friend who was over there, and she tells the FBI that McCoy drove her home after Thanksgiving lunch and was like, okay, hey, me and Karen are about to go to Vegas or whatever. Like, okay, there's that. That's in there too. It's not just a mystery exchange student. Then we have the credit card statements, which I'll try to find that for you guys. I mean, we have this. I think this might be. Let me try to find this. All right. All right. This might be it. No. Ugh. Is this? Here it is. Okay. Yay. I got it. All right, y'all. Here we go. Okay. I get to show everybody this. Gryder says Denise recanted. Denise, if you want to read an unflattering portrait of somebody, you read about Denise Burns, last name. Yeah, you read about Denise Burns in the 302s and in the Real McCoy book. Not gonna say what it is, but yeah, Denise not a stellar individual, really. Okay, here we go. Gas station. This is dated April 17th, 72. This would be 10 days after McCoy's hijacking. Review of Bank of America card charge tickets today indicated charges to McCoy at Provo, Utah for gas purchase on November 25th. Charge for gas at Cedar City, Utah, November 25th. Charge for gas at Las Vegas, November 25th. Okay. That is someone driving from Provo, Utah in a Volkswagen Beetle that has to fill up a lot to get to Vegas. That's somebody making their trip to Vegas. So yes, we've got the receipts. Yeah, trying to attack Gryder logic, pretzel logic is easier to refute. I know. Yeah, it's tough. So the thing about, yeah, this is what he says exactly. Yeah, Mark says, I repeat fully what Dan told early on that he should. Yeah, Mark's told Dan, he said, look, I really want you to rethink this because you found a Air Force parachute, not a Navy one, and he just attacked me. He said I didn't want the case solved. That's his attack, is we don't want the case solved, which is like, Mark's like, I'm getting old. I want the case solved. Like, why would I not? Like, that is the dumbest excuse. As I mentioned, like the other day, that's like the Christian who says that they don't want to go to heaven or something. Or it's the Christian who's living a good life because they want to go to heaven. And then they're like, well, I don't want to go to heaven. Like, well, no, I'm trying to investigate this to solve this thing. Like, what do you mean I don't want it solved? I mean, if Dan Gryder solved the DB Cooper case, okay, great. I don't care. Yeah, I know it's a deep secret. DB Cooper is. I know it's a deep secret. Just $6,000. Somebody said, okay, newbie here. Hello, David. The fragments found at Tina Bar, is it assumed to be all the money? No, it was just $6,000. Yep. Just $6,000 was found. That's part of the mystery, is why $6,000 was found, not the whole thing. Yeah, he's right. They thought it was 5,800. So most things you'll read online will say 5,800, but that is, they've looked at the fragments. They've done a better examination recently of some of the fragments that Brian has. And there are, what is that? 10 extra serial numbers they found. So it was a bundle of $6,000. Yeah, the fragments. Yeah, the fragments were, I mean, do I have the pictures here? I usually keep pictures of the Tina Bar money on my thing. Okay, well, I'll have to show it to you. So if you look, let's see. If we look at the pictures of the Tina Bar money, let me pull up Tina Bar money photos for you guys. Here we go. Yeah. So these are the ones that the FBI got to keep. Remember I said the FBI got to keep some? So yeah. So when they say the fragments, that's what they're talking about. They're talking about like the shards of the money that had rotted away. So some of the money had rotted away, you see. So that's what they're talking about when they say like shards or fragments or whatever. But let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, I think they got to keep 13. So I don't know. They don't get 13. And those black bills, I've still never gotten a good explanation for why those bills are black. There is some reason, but I don't know the exact reason. Like Brian says that some of the bills were black already when he found them. Tom K thinks they came from fingerprint testing or something. Silver nitrate. Yeah, there you go. Yeah, silver nitrate. That's what Tom thinks. Brian thinks that some of them were black already. So, yeah, how did it get to Tina Bar? Well, okay. It seems like it doesn't have winter diatom, so it didn't land in the river and float there. And again, money bundles do not float, they sink. Okay, so, and then for it to be buried, so it had been buried in the ground for a long time. To be in this kind of condition is years of being buried, abuse, basically. Okay, so people who know this stuff better than we do about, decompose, this sort of stuff. They say that money had been buried there for a while, and Tina Bar had an erosion rate at the time of about 6 inches a year. And so that money seems like it had kind of unearthed itself over time, which means that it had been buried deep. And I mean, there was a hydrologist on the Cooper Vortex podcast recently, and as he said, that is impossible. Like, that's not going to happen. Like, because of density or whatever things. Like, basically, it had to get there by a human, like not natural means. What happened to Gryder's money? Yeah, I know. It went. He littered it into the Columbia. That's dangerous too. Jumping out of a plane. Okay. What kind of river was Tina Bar? Was it a migrating point bar? What kind of river? I mean, it's the Columbia River. It's a huge ass river. It's about a half mile wide at that point. And it does turn. That's the thing is Tina Bar is a natural, because of the current, the money does, because of the current, or things will wash up on shore in Tina Bar. It's like a natural current point or something where the river turns or something. But yeah. Let's see. Hello, Sean. Knew myself. Tina Bar money around the same as offered to the stewardesses. Chance to separate the main stash during drop. Possibly lost the main haul during the drop and only had that. Say had in his coat pocket. Huh. Well, we don't know exactly how much he offered the stewardesses. Alice told somebody that it was a packet was offered to her, so that'd be about $2,000. Tina makes it sound like it was a bundle. She calls it a package. So I think it was a bundle of $6,000 probably, or $4,000, something like that. Poor Flo, he only offered her $19. I don't think he liked Flo. I think he was mad at Flo for never coming back. You know, I think he liked having Tina there, but he picked Flo. He didn't pick Tina. He picked Flo. So maybe he had a crush on Flo and wanted Flo to be the girl. I don't know, but Flo never came back. She fled to the cockpit, and all he offered Flo was she said he offered her $19, which was the change from his $1 bourbon and 7-Up. So she said, I recognized the money. He reached his hand out to me and said, here, take this. She said it was the money I recognized it as the change I had given him earlier. So he's offering Alice Hancock a couple grand, which is like $15,000 now. Offers Tina possibly $6,000, which is like $53,000 now, and gives Flo $19. He gives her a $100 bill basically. So of course, they all refused. They said, we cannot accept gratuities, which is interesting because McNally gave his stewardesses $2,500, and they took it. Now they took it for evidence. They were like, hey, there's fingerprints on this. Probably and maybe they should have done that for Cooper. They probably should have taken it. They could have gotten fingerprints off of it, maybe. As in, what kind of faces? What is that? What kind of faces was that section of the Columbia? I don't know what that means. Faces. I'm not always not that smart. I'm not pretty dumb with some things. I wonder if Cooper just got so giddy about having money in his possession that he was just drunk on excitement and tried handing out money like he was winning in Vegas. Yeah, I mean, well, Tina asked him. She said, hey, there's a lot of money in that bag. Can I have some? Just lightening the mood. She says, I was trying to be humorous and said, can I have some of that money? He goes, sure. She said he reached in the bag, offered it to her. She held it in her hands, handed it back to him, and said, sorry, we can't accept gratuities with the company. And she said he didn't seem offended by it, and he put it back in the bag, though. So any thought that maybe Cooper had that separate? I am not opposed to the idea, though, recently about Cooper. I mean, Cooper was alone with Tina's purse for about 30 minutes. And maybe he was being cute and put the money in there. Facies is the expected progression of a rock or sediment of a known environment. You're way smarter than I am, dude. I don't even know what that sentence means. So sorry. That's a cool shirt. What is the pattern? Red herrings. Oh, bada bing, bada boom, Mary. Now these are sharks. Ole Miss can never figure out their mascot. They had a land shark for a mascot for a while, so Ole Miss has a lot of land sharky things. Oh, this shark didn't have any feet, so I don't know how it's going to walk around, but yeah. Let's see. Could the money have separated itself from Cooper and been carried by the wind? No. I mean, it's too heavy, right? Some of the bills fell like confetti. I don't think so. I mean, I think he did a good job of, I mean, that back there, that money bag that I've got is the right weight. It's got 10,000 pieces of paper that I cut the right size. I mean, there's 10,000 of them in there. And anybody who was at CooperCon was able to see the bag. But I don't think that would, here's us. I love this picture. Thank you, Nicole, for this photo again. I love this photo. And thank you, Brandon Arnold, for the dentures that are sitting there. I try to call attention to DB Cooper's dentures that they, by the way, Brandon, the dentures do sit on my bookshelf of Cooper items. But yeah, there's Lil Coop and the money bag. And I think that money bag would have stayed together. Marty Andrade had the idea of getting a money bag like that and dropping it off of somewhere where it could reach terminal velocity and seeing if it would actually explode. I don't know, actually. I mean, it's wrapped up pretty good with that parachute cord. Paracord's pretty tough. So what did dentures have to do with Cooper? Is that some sort of inside joke? Well, that is a long story. Essentially, that is a Facebook. For those, hey, for those watching, go join the official DB Cooper group on Facebook. Okay, you can also join the DB Cooper mystery group on Facebook. Both are fine. Mine is the official DB Cooper mystery group on Facebook, so you can go join that. But if you click request to join and you refresh the page and you're in. I would say if you love Cooper stuff and don't have a Facebook account, just get a Facebook account and just for that. I know people who only have Facebook just for the Cooper stuff because that's where. Is that the group you can post Recca memes? Absolutely. You can always post Recca stuff. But the dentures, there was some thought that maybe Cooper's pouty lip, because Cooper had a pouty lip, some thought that maybe he was missing back teeth or something, and that gave him a lower lip protrusion. I don't know. And so the missing teeth thing was a topic of conversation for a week or two or something, or maybe a day or two on the Facebook group. And one of our practical jokers in the Vortex makes 3D dentures, which are pretty cool. 3D prints dentures for his job. And I was on our display table up there at CooperCon. All of a sudden I'm looking around and there's the dentures sitting there. I'm like, what in the world? Like, did someone's dentures fall out looking at the display? And it was, Brandon, it had written on it Dan Cooper on the dentures. So if I have those, I was looking around for my dentures. But anyway, yeah. So there's dentures. There's a Dan Cooper engraved dentures. Yep. Didn't a copycat lose a bag in there? Oh yes, our boy Marty McNally, who came to CooperCon last year. Yep, he jumped, and as soon as he popped his parachute, he lost $500,000, which is about $3 million today. Just fell out of his hand, fell off of his waist. Yep, Mac lost $500,000 and almost killed himself because he was so mad. But if you know Mac, he was so mad, he said, oh my God, I'll never find that money. It's gone. Nighttime, 3 a.m., whatever. He starts to undo his parachute to kill himself. He's like, I'm just unbuckling. I'm just going to die. And then he's unbuckling the last strap. He goes, you know what? Where there's life, there's hope. I'll just skyjack another plane next week. And I'll ask for $1 million this time. But he was caught. He was caught within a week. So he couldn't pull off his second hijacking attempt. So yeah, that is McNally. I think my favorite Mac story, and I tell us every time. I know everybody gets tired of hearing this. But my favorite McNally story is here's let me go ahead and show. Here's McNally. This is what Mac was dressed as during his hijacking. He was wearing a yellow pants, yellow tie, red jacket. So Mac, my favorite story about Mac is Mac wrote a letter after his conviction to American Airlines, to the president of American Airlines, asking for a refund because he bought a round trip ticket and did not get to use the second half of his round trip ticket because he jumped out of the plane. And so he wanted some money back from American Airlines, which I think is an amazing, amazing story. Okay. Let's see. Wouldn't that make 3 planes for McNally since he had to switch planes on the first hijack? 3. Where are you getting 3? Well, so he sure didn't blend in. He actually did blend in the time period, I think. I mean, he was trying to blend in, actually. So I think he did. Yep, Mac's belt broke. If I can pull up Mac's photograph here, Mac jumped out I sent Mac a text message a while back, and I said, Mac, show me how you were dressed or how you tied the money bag to yourself. And Mac, where is it? There it is. So Mac texted me this drawing. This is drawn by Martin McNally himself. Mac, Pirate 72. There's his drawing. What he did is he took his belt off. So Mac's money bag, I wonder if I have a picture of his money bag. Mac's money bag had a loop at the top of it. It was like a mail bag, essentially. Like you'd think of like a mail bag. So he had a loop at the top of it, and he put that loop through. Do I really not have a photograph? Oh, here it is. Here we go. Great. Oh, hang on. Yeah, here's a photograph of Mac's money bag. So there. So it was an American Airlines mail pouch. Mac took his belt off and put that loop there. Like he ran his belt. He put his belt back on, but like put that loop through it. Right? Does that make sense? See, like belt. So put that loop through the belt. And his belt was a snap belt. It wasn't like a stitched belt. It was a snap belt. And he said he just wasn't thinking. And as soon as he pulled the ripcord, that belt just snapped. It snapped. If it had, belt buckle. If it had been a regular belt, I mean, it would have held. I mean, it's not a terrible. What was Mac's method of intimidation? Well, funny you ask. Here's them finding Mac had a submachine gun that he threw out the back of the plane. It landed on an Air Force base, funnily enough, but there's some FBI guys with Mac's submachine gun. It's actually in a museum somewhere. I wonder if I have that photograph of his grease gun. Thought I did. But anyway, no, Mac had a little grease gun there. I call it. Let's see. Here is Mac does, and of course we're talking about Mac. Mac has the best perp walk photo in the history of the world. Here's Mac's perp walk. Everybody has seen this, but there he is, smiling. How 70s can you get, right? Smoking a cigarette in handcuffs, smiling. That is Martin Joseph McNally, our friend. Call him Mac, the Sky Pirate. His name in the federal pen was Pirate. That was his street name, I guess, in prison. Where is the plane that Cooper hijacked? It has been disassembled. Could be in your microwave, perhaps. It was stripped for scrap metal in Greenwood, Mississippi, of all places, maybe it lived until like 2003 or something, but it survived. It went through several places. Yeah, I thought a drunk crashed into his plane at the airport. You're not wrong on that. Nope. In fact, yes, a drunk tried to stop Mac's hijacking as they were taking off. He crashed his plane, or he crashed his Cadillac. He crashed through the gate at the airport in St. Louis and crashed his Cadillac into. It bounced off the front strut of the aircraft, and it spun around and it ended up by the wheel there. Here's another photograph of it. Yeah, that guy, the driver, wasn't killed. All that white stuff, I guess it was on fire. But it spun around and somehow he wasn't killed. He had that drunk man's Gumby strength, right? Drunks usually survive wrecks that they shouldn't. So he was trying to stop it. I think that guy later ran for president, which is funny because Mac ran for president also from prison, famously. Gryder v. Sonnen, Shale. Oh my God. A cage match between Gryder and Shale. Jeez. If one wanted to follow only agendaless agnostic Cooperites, who would they be and who would you avoid? If one wanted to follow only agendaless agnostic Cooperites, who would they be? Okay. Darren Schaefer for sure. Darren is suspect agnostic. Marty Andrade is, I would say, suspect agnostic. Chris Cunningham. But as far as people putting out content, I mean, honestly, there's not a lot of Cooper content, people putting out content. But as far as researchers who don't have a bias, I would say Chris Cunningham, Mary Johns, you know, a lot of folks have suspects, but there are people out there. I'm brain farting on people. I'm sure. Forgive me for you guys, but no, I mean, people have. Most people have a suspect. I mean, most people like suspects. I try really hard to be. I think I owe a duty to people to be, as a historian of this case, to not really pick sides on suspects. Although I'll tell you if your suspect stinks, though, that's for sure. But I mean, like, I would not be. I mean, there are people who I would not like fall out of my chair if they were Cooper. Ted Braden, Skip Hall, Milton Vordal. I mean, there are Orville Lions. There's a guy named Roger Strom, who I wouldn't be like too surprised if Cooper came out to him. Actually, there's not that many. Like I said, I would not, like, my hat wouldn't fly off my head if it was proven to be LD Cooper. I mean, seriously, as much as Marla is Marla, LD is a much better suspect than I thought he was. In fact, he kind of fits the profile in some ways, just being somebody who's. I mean, the problem with Cooper is, like, you can interpret his actions in many ways. You can interpret this same guy as being Ted Braden, and you can also interpret him as LD Cooper. Like, that's the problem with this case. Is literally, like, I would not be surprised if it was LD Cooper, and I wouldn't be surprised if it was Ted Braden. And those two guys are diametrically opposed as far as, like, skill level, right? So, like, and again, the existence of someone like McNally who did this. Yes, Mary Johns, thank you. Black Box Radio. Yes, Ned DeHaan is very, very neutral. Great. Thank you for reminding me. Black Box Radio online, YouTube, just YouTube Black Box Radio. Ned does a good job. Sorry, Ned, if you're watching, I forgot. But yes, that's the problem with Cooper. And that's why I hate this case, is because, like I said, it's if you know Star Trek, it's the Kobayashi Maru for FBI people. It's like, it is an unwinnable, unsolvable case, because the data we have, the evidence we have, can lead you in, like, various directions. Like, I don't know if Cooper's smart or stupid. I literally cannot tell you that. It could be either way. I mean, I think he knew what he was doing, but I can't be sure of that. Especially when you read the witness statements on some of the other hijackers. And they're like, oh, he was really knowledgeable on the plane or whatever. And it's like, it turns out, wait, we're saying Mac is knowledgeable. Come on. I know one of these. It's like, we know one of these skyjackers. Like, I know, I drink beer. I text message with a guy who did this. Like, I mean, it doesn't have to be James Bond to do this. So, but maybe he was a Ted Braden. I don't know. Ever thought about making a video tutorial on how to navigate the FBI files? I should. It's a good idea, actually. Thank you, Six Man. That's a good idea for a video. I see. How can you be unbiased with your research with all the mis and disinformation nowadays on the internet and news media? Because I just read the FBI files. Like, and I know they're not perfect, But, you know, I don't read, like, I don't read Cooper books. Like I've got a ton of Cooper books, but like I'll admit I don't read most of them. I just have them because I mean, sometimes I have to consult them for a suspect thing. Like if I want to try to remember what Recep said or something, you know, but like I don't read them for knowledge because I have, why would I do that if I have the real knowledge in front of me? I mean, we've got 45,000 pages of what the FBI had. It's their files. So, I mean, there might be some information that came out later on. You know, there may be some information that came out later on from some witness or something, but like, I mean, I'm gonna believe what they're telling the FBI 15 minutes after getting off the plane, not what not 50 years later, what they're remembering. So I mean, I just try to stick to the FBI files as best I can, and that's kind of served me well. You know, and it you know, you just because there's so much hearsay on this case and bullcrap out there about this case, about jumping with loafers or jumping into the wilderness. And you read, or like that the FBI thought he died. Well, geez, man. I mean, you look in the FBI files, you can literally see a document to the director of the FBI from the case agent saying, we have no reason to believe that unsub, that's their name for Cooper, which means unidentified subject is what unsub means. But we have no reason to believe that unsub's parachute failed to deploy. That is legalese FBI lingo for the guy survived and got away. So we have no reason to believe that unsub's parachute failed to deploy that day. So the FBI officially believes Cooper survived. Okay. Let's see. Yeah, that's true. I can't imagine some of the goofy shit in those FBI files. People calling in and reporting that Cooper and Elvis beat up their grandmother and God knows what else. I'll show you my favorite, actually. My favorite one. Let's see. I'm going to pull this one up. I'll pull up a couple of these FBI files. I have a little thing here of the interesting ones. Let's see. Okay. That's a good one. Where's the, here we go. Yeah. Here we go. Oh, is it just small? Okay, here we go. This is a good one here. At 1:15 p.m. this is a memo. At 1:15 p.m., redacted Longview telephonically advised the writer, he's talking about himself, third person, advised me that he was watching an episode of the Perry Mason detective series on television, Portland, Oregon, Channel 12, station KPTV, this date, and observed an actor playing a supporting role, name of role unknown, name of actor unknown, who bears a strong resemblance to the published artist's conception of D.B. Cooper. This person remarked that the hairstyle and facial features were very similar to those of the artist's conception. And then like, it handwritten on the bottom, no further action at present run. So like, dead end. Don't quit doing that. There's a good one too. On December 15th, 1971, Almond DeGraw, P.O. Box 205, Bakota, Washington, appeared at the Olympia resident agency to state that he had a device by which he could locate the money involved in this case. Mr. DeGraw is obviously a mental case, and in spite of offering to demonstrate his divining device, which consisted of an Alka-Seltzer bottle attached to a chain, he was ushered out of the office. Yeah. If they could only do that with Dan Gryder these days, that would be great. But yeah, that's a good one. If I have any others that are really silly like that. Do I have? No. Yeah, there's. Well, none that are that silly, I guess. But that is a silly one, isn't it? Perry Mason. Okay. is Mark's DNA on file, just saying, Meltzer, that would be something, Mark. What if you were Cooper all along? You're just having a good time at CooperCon, playing games. Is it possible that he couldn't have been ex-military but got all the information about the plane from books or models? I mean, there's a difference in being military and being a special forces guy, right? I mean, Cooper is in his 40s. Let's just say Cooper is 43. That means he's born in, or let's say he's 45. Okay, Cooper's my own grandfather was 45 in 1971. Okay, so that means he's born in 1926. If you're born in 1926, you are 18 years old in 1944. There's only the biggest event in world history going on in 1944 for an 18-year-old guy. So, okay, then you got Korea. If he's a little younger, he's going to be serving in Korea. I mean, people were drafted. I mean, it was rare for a man to not be in the military. So, I mean, Cooper would have been in the military at some point. I suspect Air Force or Army Air Corps. We can look at our copycats. All of our copycats, all of them were military aviation to a degree. Richard LaPoint was a door gunner on a Huey, and he had parachute training. I didn't know that Huey crew wore parachutes, but they did. He was a door gunner. And then we have McCoy, who of course was a Green Beret, and then later a chopper pilot himself. Then we've got, let's see, who's next? Heinemann was a crewman on a bomber. Flyjack and I are not sure if it was a B-17 or a B-24, but he was on a bomber. He was a radio operator, I think, on a bomber. I'm not sure. Flyjack's going to email me and yell at me, but I'm not sure. But he was in the Air Corps. Heinemann was. Melvin Fisher was trying to be a pilot in World War II, and I think he didn't pass and became a bomber crewman. Okay. McNally had almost 2,000 hours on a P-2 Neptune sub hunting plane that flew up and down the West Coast. Rob Hetty was a paratrooper, and the former Rob Hetty, the one that ran on the plane with the mask on, he was the NCAA champion skydiver in like 1969 or something like that. So I didn't even know there was such a thing, but they had, I guess, a championship for NCAA skydivers, and he won it in 69 or so. So all these guys were air related. All the copycats who were worth a crap were air related, aviation related military. So I think that if he was an only child, he wouldn't have got drafted. Yeah, but he would have volunteered though. I mean, there were people who committed suicide because they were 4F, which means that they were flat feet or something, right? And they couldn't go fight in World War II. If you were of age to fight in World War II, you were in World War II. Otherwise, you were a coward, considered a coward probably, or you weren't getting no chicks. And just people people were patriotic. I mean, this is the war, right? I mean, you call it the war in America. If you said the war, so people usually people talk about the war. The war means World War II. So Cooper was military, I'm sure, but I think he was a criminal too. He was too calm, really. I mean, look at someone like McCoy. McCoy was a badass. Like McCoy fought in Vietnam as a Green Beret, like dangerous crap. Then he goes and flies choppers, which I think maybe like, I don't know how many Hueys we lost in Vietnam. I mean, being on a chopper was a dangerous gig in Vietnam. I mean, thousands, like of our 58,000 deaths. I may have to like type that up. I'm going to see. It's a huge number. Let me check on that. A big number. It says, okay. Okay. So in Vietnam, my God, yeah. So in Vietnam, remember we had 58,000 dead in Vietnam. 4,906 of those were helicopter crewmen. So it's over that's almost 10% of our casualties in Vietnam were on choppers. So McCoy was a brave guy. Okay. McCoy was doing a very dangerous thing. day in and day out in Vietnam. And he wanted to go back to Vietnam for a third tour. I think he was probably suicidal. Well, we know he was suicidal. His paperwork says he has suicidal ideations because of his PTSD. But McCoy wanted to go back for a third tour in Vietnam, and his wife said, "I'll divorce you." So there's that. So he didn't go back, and he went to school and got bored and went and hijacked a plane, I guess. But McCoy, though, was a nervous wreck, as I've said in all my videos and on my Gryder stuff. The guy left his ransom note in the airport terminal where he had been sitting before boarding. The gate agent comes on the plane. Who left their envelope by their seat? Oh, it's me. McCoy goes, "Oh my God." So McCoy's dripping sweat, like beads, like his makeup is dripping off of him. He's so nervous, dripping. Like McCoy, as I've said a million times, but I got all these new viewers, so people bear with me. McCoy, not Cooper. McCoy was such a bad hijacker that they knew they were being hijacked before the hijacking started. They were already diverting the plane to land, to do an emergency landing for law enforcement, because they called and said, "Hey, I think we have a hijacker back there. There's a guy acting real weird. He locked himself in the bathroom on accident. Like he's just all flustered. He's dressed like a clown." For those who don't know what McCoy was dressed like, there's McCoy's disguise. So yes, that's DB Cooper, people. Yes. So why is this refining your methods? Okay. Why is this a better disguise than Blindy McNobody DB Cooper? It's not a better disguise. McCoy was wearing blue bell-bottom pants, a floral pattern shirt, a bright yellow tie, a bright red jacket, brown skin bronzer, mirrored sunglasses, a fake mustache, a fake wig, black gloves. McCoy, not Cooper at all. Yeah. So yeah, he blended in so well that they knew they were being hijacked. Whereas with Cooper, none of the passengers even knew they had been hijacked until getting off the plane. Okay. So there's that. Okay. Let's see. Do I think Mac is the closest hijacking to Cooper as being criminal in terms of planning and execution? Yeah, honestly. Mac was the calmest. Well, it's hard to say. Heinemann, you can read different things on Heinemann. Sometimes Heinemann, depending on what paper you read or what news report you read, Heinemann's either scaring the hell out of people or he's chilled out. I mean, there's one story about there's another difference between Heinemann and Cooper that I have a problem with as far as Flyjack's theory on Heinemann, is that like Heinemann, the passengers left the plane off the aft stairs. So like the aft staircase was open up behind Heinemann, and the passengers, when he let them go, filed past him as he's like, mean mugging them as they go by. So like that's dangerous to open up the back. I mean, because you could get bum rushed. And Heinemann didn't say he had a bomb, I don't think, or maybe he did, but he had a pistol out for sure. But you let the stairs down behind you could get bum rushed. But I believe that as he's like, there's a story that as the passengers are coming off the plane, that like one of them gave him a thumbs up, and Heinemann like gave him a thumbs up back, and like, "Hey, good job," or whatever. So like, I don't think they were too afraid of Heinemann, but he was aggressive at sometimes. Yeah, Mac got cranky. Mac is cranky, for sure. I need to get Mac on the show. Mac is cranky, but Mac only got cranky when a drunk rammed his plane and he thought the FBI were playing games. Of course, Mac's famous quote that the pilot said that his first interview, the pilot said, "I saw this. We were going down the runway, about to lift off, and I said, 'Oh my God, there's a car on the runway. There's a car on the runway,' and wham, and we get hit." And the hijacker screamed out, like, "Jesus Christ, that guy's crazier than I am." So like, and if you know Mac, that's exactly what Mac would say. He's crazier than I am. So great story. And like I said, I love the story about when that crash happens, when the Cadillac crashed into the 727, everybody got all knocked around, that the stewardess reached over and straightened Mac's wig for him, which I think is a great story. Like, what a weird thing. Like, imagine Cooper wearing a wig and his wig getting tossed this way, and Tina just reaches over and straightens it for him. Like, I just love the idea that Sharon was Mac's Tina, Sharon straightening his wig for him. Just love that. Okay, we're approaching 3 hours here, so we're getting okay. But do we know if anyone went into the bathroom directly before or after Cooper? Sure. Well, the drunk, who I believe is George Lebissoniere, he said he had to go pee all the time. He said he was constantly taking bathroom trips. That's how he got a view of Cooper, because he kept having to walk past Cooper to go to the bathroom. Robert Gregory went in the bathroom when he got on the plane. He said he passed by Cooper going to the bathroom. Richard Simmons, not the sweating to the oldies, Richard Simmons, but Richard Simmons, the passenger, said that he saw Cooper, and I believe him. I mean, like, basically, like, anybody who said they saw Cooper who didn't tell the FBI they saw Cooper that night, I don't believe them. So Jack Olmsted, Larry Feingold, and Michael Cooper have since claimed that they saw Cooper, and he looked like the sketch or whatever. But we have their files now. We have what they told the FBI after getting off the plane, and all three of those guys were like, I didn't know anything was going on. I did not see anybody in the back of the plane who would have been the hijackers. We have their words saying that. But Richard Simmons, though, who isn't one of our main witnesses to Cooper, he didn't give a detailed description. But Richard Simmons said he went to the bathroom once and passed him, and all he could tell the FBI was that the guy was middle-aged and wearing sunglasses. That's all he could say. Nancy House didn't give a great description. She just said middle-aged with a narrow face. She said he had a narrow face, which, I mean, when you look at the sketch, he does have a narrow face. How did I wind up a Cubs fan? Well, in Mississippi, where I'm from, we don't have any professional sports teams. The joke has always been that the three biggest cities in Mississippi are Mobile, New Orleans, and Memphis, which are literally a few miles away from the border. So Mississippi got really shafted. We don't have any big cities. It's Jackson, where I'm from, which is about 500,000 people, I guess. But we didn't have any sports teams. And so when you're a little kid, you grow up and you go home after school. I loved baseball. I played baseball growing up. When you're a kid, you go home. What was on TV on WGN? If you're my age, the Cubs, Harry Carey. So this is Harry Carey. You know, when you're a kid, you go home and get out of school at 2. Because the Cubs played a lot of day games. The Cubs did not play a night game at Wrigley Field until 1988. So they played a lot of day games. So when you're growing up, you had cable. We had 2 baseball channels, really. There was WGN that showed the Cubs and TBS that showed the Braves. So you were either a Cubs fan or a Braves fan. I mean, a lot of Mississippians are Cubs fans because of that. And there are a lot of Braves fans in Mississippi because of TBS. So if you were a baseball fan, those were the teams you saw growing up a lot. And so I grew up a Cubs fan. God have mercy on my soul. I'm also a Saints fan and an Ole Miss Rebels fan. So I had some success recently, I guess, with Ole Miss football. But anyway, I put it to you, sir, that the so-called fake wig was actually a real wig. On whom? Cooper or Mac? We had a clicker remote with 5 channels. Well, Uncle Jim, I think you're older than I am. Although it's funny, I was asked a while back, it is funny when you get older, like, I have a daughter, and she said, she asked me one time, I was like, what is the internet? I was like, I didn't know how to describe the internet. Because the internet is so ubiquitous. It's around us. It surrounds us. It's like the force, right? It surrounds us. Like Yoda says, it surrounds us. It binds us. Luminous beings are we on the internet. No, how do you describe the internet to like somebody who's not, who doesn't remember a time before the internet, right? Like if you're 16 years old right now, you've never known anything. I mean, Facebook was around when you were born. I mean, you're driving a car. There are people driving cars right now there's people who can, people driving cars right now who were born after Facebook came out. I mean, like, how do you, talking about Mac's wig? No, Mac had a fake wig for sure. Mac definitely had a fake wig. He bought it. It was $20, he said. Internet with those free AOL discs. Yeah, man. Those AOL discs, I liken those to the matchbooks that Cooper had. Cooper had a ICS matchbook. One of his matchbooks was, let's see if I have a picture of that. One of Cooper's matchbooks, according to Tina, was for, we believe, most likely, was the International Correspondence School. And this is the matchbook. Apparently these were everywhere. I wasn't alive back then, but apparently these were everywhere. Like everywhere you went, this was their main advertising. It was like the University of Phoenix. This was like an online, not online school, of course, but it was a correspondence school. And I love the fact that Cooper's matchbook said, increase your earning power fast. So Cooper was certainly increasing his earning power fast. But yeah, Tina said that Cooper had a yellow matchbook that said, earn a high school diploma. So that's what that was, ICS. Pre-internet vortex must have been very different. Yeah. I don't think there was a vortex. No, I don't think there was a Cooper vortex before the internet, Mary. I mean, the Cooper vortex starts with the drop zone, really. I mean, as far as like the personalities involved. That was my matchbook, Uncle Jim. In fact, let's see. In fact, yeah, I have both of them. So this, there's an ICS matchbook there. And we know that's one of Cooper's. This was he ran out of this one. So this will be the one that Tina ran out. Tina used his last match on this one. And she threw in the seat pocket. And Cooper goes, oh, no. Cooper goes, give that back to me. So she dug it out of the trash and gave it to him. Then he had this, which is Sky Chef. It's blurry, but anyway, there we go. Sky Chef. Get the little guy on the back there. So he had Sky Chef and he had ICS matchbook, which are both, aren't going to give any clues about. Although I do think the fact that he was low on matches is like this whole fake smoking thing. That's nothing about McCoy. Fake smoking. Like Cooper ran out of, like Tina at some point, struck his last match. So, I mean, the guy's probably a smoker, right? He's using the matches. He's not just, I mean, how many campfires is he starting? Or how many kerosene lamps or whatever? I mean, matches are for smokers generally, right? Especially in that time. Do we have any hobbies aside from Cooper? I like sports. I like the Cubbies. I like my Ole Miss Rebels. I'm a season ticket holder for the Saints and Cubs, or not Cubs, but Rebels. Okay, law doesn't leave a lot of space for tons of hobbies. Cooper study is probably plenty for anyone. Actually, I have plenty of time, actually. My law business kind of runs itself. Most lawyers play golf. I don't play golf, so I just do this stuff. Yeah, wasn't there a movie about a Mississippi lawyer that had Matthew McConaughey in it? Yes, that's A Time to Kill. That was filmed at the courthouse where I spend most of my time. That I remember that being filmed. I was in high school at the time, but yeah, that takes place. And everybody's sweating in that movie. It's funny. Everybody is like just dripping in sweat. And it's like, we have air conditioning in Mississippi, right? I mean, we're not, come on. But dramatic effect. But no, that's a good movie by Time to Kill. But yeah, that's the DA's office that I worked at. So Kevin Spacey plays the Madison County District Attorney, which would have been my boss. Let's see. Do I like To Kill a Mockingbird? Well, I do. And that's basically what A Time to Kill is. John Grisham essentially lifted A Time to Kill from To Kill a Mockingbird. Similar, I think. If the crew saw Cooper, they would definitely remember his face. Not now. Yeah, Kevin Spacey's not so in vogue right now. No, the crew would not remember Cooper's face right now. I mean, like I said, we have them not long after the hijacking, really saying we can't remember what he looked like, and complaining that they had seen the sketch so much that they were really starting to like picture the sketch instead of the real guy, because they had seen the sketch so much. So that's another problem that they ran into. Items in Cooper's mystery bag: pistol, flashlight, compass, and kimchi. Basically, yeah. I mean, you need a compass, pistol for sure. Flashlight, I don't know. So I asked Mac, because Mac had a mystery bag of goodies. I said, did you have a flashlight? He goes, no. He said, I would have been too tempted to use it. So that's why he didn't have a flashlight, which I think is smart. Interesting. I wonder how many passengers from the flight are still alive. Well, I can tell you. Let's see. On my website, for those who don't know my website, norjak.org, norjak.org. I need to like put that on my web. I start doing that on my live streams. If you click on the passengers, I have a list of all of them. Let's see who's alive. 1, 2, 3, 4. So Floyd Klopfer still alive. Dennis Mickelson, Olmsted, Daniel Rice, Feingold's alive. Bill's alive. Bill Mitchell. Nancy House is alive. William Keats is alive. Michael Cooper's alive. Lavon's alive. Paul Weitzel's alive. Pat Minch is alive for sure. 12. So 12 of was it 35 passengers? So yeah, not a lot, you know. All right. Let's see. Were there any minors on the flight? No, the youngest passenger was Lynn Cummings. He was a teenager. Lynn was 19 at the time. So there was a 19-year-old, and then there was a 20-year-old. Pat Minch was 20, and then Bill would have been 20 as well. So 2 20-year-olds and a 19-year-old. So no kids. Kimchi makes me hungry. Yep, no kids. Dan Cooper was a real person's name, but D.B. Cooper was a fictional hijacker character. Okay. Was intelligent. He never got caught. Sketch is not accurate. I don't think Coop was as old as thought. Well, I disagree. They had reasons for thinking that Cooper was old. I mean, they said he had a wrinkled mouth. They noticed wrinkles on his mouth. Yeah, he had wrinkles. He had like a pretty deep wrinkles right here. If you look at the sketch, you can see that. He had pretty thick wrinkles here. His mouth. So yeah. He was older. I mean, he was balding. I mean, they said he was balding in the back. You know, so as an expert, how did Cooper like his steak? Well, I don't want to give that away. Yeah. Okay. Let's see. There are things that are only in my book. It's got to come out. Okay. Do we know the distance between Mac and his money landing sites? Mac? Oh. Well, I don't know. I have a map somewhere of the distance of where Mac, because Mac was throwing things out the back the whole time. Mac threw, police scanner would be a good idea for sure. That'd be a great idea, actually, or radio, or portable radio at least, to listen to the news, to know if they're even looking for you. If you're talking about your mystery bag, hell yeah, get you a portable radio. I mean, they may not even be looking for you, or police scanner for sure. I mean, Cooper had a 40-hour head start on everybody. No boots were on the ground. Well, they were looking in the wrong place anyway, right? But no boots were on the ground where they thought he jumped for about 36 hours. I bet Ryan's going to say the suspect liked his steak well done. That makes him a criminal. I don't know. Good point. I still think it's wild that no passengers were aware of what was going on. That crew was top notch. They were. They sure were. I still think, I'll show you the Bill Mitchell letter. Speaking of the crew, Bill's mother wrote a letter to Northwest Airlines. Bill Mitchell, the passenger, her baby boy, wrote a letter to Northwest Airlines, and she was like, hey, thank you for taking care of my baby boy, yada, yada, yada. And they responded with a template letter. I guess they didn't understand what she was referencing. Is this it? Yeah, here we go. So I'll read it here. This is the letter that Northwest Airlines sent to Mama Mitchell after she was like, thank you for taking care of my son. Because, dear Mrs. Mitchell, it was a pleasure to read your letter of November 26th, 1971, concerning Northwest Orient. We place a great deal of emphasis on passenger service, and it is gratifying to learn that our personnel were able to contribute to the enjoyment of Flight 305. We enjoyed having you and your family as our customers and look forward to serving you on all your future travels. So yeah, oops, like, wait a second. So yeah, that's pretty cool. I got to see that. It's like a Ryanair response. Yeah. Yeah, it's pretty funny. Like we are glad that we could contribute to the enjoyment of your hijacked plane. Tina Bar money, a dredge. No, the dredge was put on top of it. So the dredge, okay, so we know what kind of dredge, there was dredging done in 1974 at that location, and things were dumped on that beach from dredging in 74. But the dredge they used, the FBI talked to the Corps of Engineers after the money was found. They said, hey, what kind of dredge did you guys use? What kind of dredge did you guys use? And whatever. And they used it like a suction dredge that like sucks stuff off the riverbed, and it goes to like a turbine or something that spits it all out. So basically, they said there's no way money would have survived in a bundle going through this dredge. So it was not dredge spoils. It didn't get there from the dredge, but I do think dredge spoils were dumped on top of it. That makes sense to me. I think wherever it was, it just made it buried it deeper because of the dredge spoils. Yeah, the dredge would have. Yeah, Ian says dredge would shred the money, be it clamshell or pump. I use both in marine science. Yeah. Okay, cool. Yeah. So yeah, because there's like a thing that picks up the mud or whatever and puts it on the beach or wherever, and then there's like the suction. And he's saying both would have torn it up. Kind of law do I practice? Well, didn't you see Dan Gryder? Didn't you see my video today? I'm the lowest of the low, man. I am Mississippi criminal defense attorneys. Is it fair to say that no other hijacker behaved anything like Cooper on the plane? None were as low key or even close. Richard LaPoint didn't cause a scene on the plane. Billy Hurst was he's not a canonical copycat because he didn't get the money and didn't get his parachutes, but Billy Hurst hijacked a plane in Dallas in February of 72. He was third copycat. His passengers didn't know they had been hijacked either when they got off. So he was low key. Mac was low key enough. I mean, the passengers knew they were being hijacked. As far as like keeping the passengers in the dark, no, nobody did that except for Cooper and Billy Hurst. That's about. In fact, I thought Cooper was the only one ever, until I was making a presentation for CooperCon last year about the copycats, and I was reading about Billy Hurst, and I'm going, he's still alive, by the way. But I was like, oh my God, his passengers didn't know either. So I thought Cooper was the only hijacking in history of a commercial airliner where the passengers didn't know they'd been hijacked, but I was wrong. The only passenger Billy Hurst, the guy sitting next to Billy Hurst knew he was a hijacker because he told him. He said, "I'm the devil," or something. Billy was like a messed up Marine from Vietnam, but he was calm enough to keep the passengers from knowing what was going on. Why do we not think Cooper originally planned to jump in Mexico? I talked about it. You must have missed that, David. I spent probably 10, 15 minutes talking about that at the start of the show. So on the replay, you can go back and check on that. But yeah, we talked about Mexico already. It's interesting that Cooper was low on matches. He was jumping into unknown territory. Well, we don't know if he was low on matches. He may have had five match books on him, right? So, when he ran out of one, he pulled out another one. He may have had more. Legit question. How long did Bill sit across from Cooper? The flight, essentially. They did not. It's a little weird. It's hard to know who to believe, but passengers, it's my understanding that at some point, maybe a couple hours in, they circled for, let's see, they're in the air from 3 to, so they're in the air for 2 hours and 45 minutes. At some point, maybe halfway through, Tina, I think by the crew's suggestion, I think the crew suggested, hey, why don't we move everybody up a little bit? And she goes, okay. And she asked Cooper, tells Cooper, she says, hey, I want to move everybody up. He goes, that's a good idea. And he looks at, apparently, if you Richard Tusaw is the only guy that's his parachute back there. I love it. Richard was the first guy to interview Tina in a long form interview. And that was about 10 years after the hijacking. And, if you believe, I have no reason to doubt what's in his book, because a lot of what's in his book that we thought was bullcrap has now turned out to be true. But anyway, she says, hey, I'm going to move everybody up. Is that okay with you? And Cooper goes, good idea. And she goes, hey, you're going to move up a little bit, because there's only 36 people on the plane, passengers, including Cooper. But Bill doesn't move. Bill has his books laid out. He's studying, and Bill's in the middle seat on the left side. He is in 18B, and he's sitting there. And Tina goes, hey, will you please move up? He goes, no. Little shit. But Bill goes, no, I'm good here. Thanks. And he just goes back to studying. And finally, she just goes and sits down, and everybody moves up, and Cooper's slouching in his seat. Tina keeps saying, but we forget Cooper. He slouched the whole time. Apparently he's slumped. He was slumping in his seat. Several passengers said that he was slouching, but then when they land, Cooper himself tells Tina, he points over to Bill and says, get that one there to move up, or something like that. Like, get that one, get that kid away, or something like that. And Bill tells the story. Bill says that he had already rebuffed this stewardess. He said, eventually a stewardess came, and she said something about the way she looked at him was like, please move up. He was like, okay, fine. So he actually marches up and sits next to Larry Feingold, apparently. But he goes up, and they all moved to first class, but there weren't enough first class seats, but they all moved up. She moved everybody 4 rows, at least 4 rows up, which wasn't too many passengers. I know that I have a seating chart that I made somewhere. Let me see if I have that for you guys. I tried to make a seating chart. There we go. I do have it. This is the best I could do. And I think it might be, yeah. So, I'm missing several passengers, but these are the ones who I know where they were sitting. Pretty good idea. So you can see within 4 rows of Cooper, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So yeah, 5 passengers were within the last 4 rows of Cooper. And so there. So did Bill move up as they were coming into land? They were already on the ground, is my understanding, is when Bill finally moved up. But that's what Bill remembers. I'm not quite sure. That's a bit murky. When you try, I had a hard time writing that in the book, even because I couldn't make heads or tails of when the passengers moved up, when they didn't. But we know that when they landed, so it might have actually been Flo who came and talked to Bill and told him to move up. Might have been, because when they land, Flo is finally calmed down, I guess, and they send Flo back and they tell Flo to go stand at row 15. Captain Scott says, go stand at row 15 and don't let anybody past you. This is when they land. And I guess she goes back there and must see that, oh shit, there's still one passenger sitting back here. So maybe it was Flo who, I think it was Flo, because I think, yeah, it would have been, because Bill said it was either Flo or Alice, because Bill said it was a dark-headed stewardess, which would have been Flo or Alice. But he said Tina didn't have any effect on him when Tina asked him. Although Tina did bring Bill his jacket, though. When Bill moved up, he left his jacket in the back, and she goes and brings his jacket to him, which was nice. Timeline of all the little details. It is tricky. Yeah, there are a couple things like when the passengers move up that are kind of wonky. That one's really hard. I really cannot make I really can't make heads or tails of that one. Cooper was insanely lucky. A pre-holiday flight was so sparsely filled. I wonder if he's would have aborted it. Yeah, if it had been packed and he couldn't take the last row. That is a weird thing too, because Cooper is the second to last to board. And, so much of his plan really depends on sitting in the back seat, right? Being, having everything in front of you. So seems like he'd want to board early so he could secure his back seat, but he was the second to last to board. So why he was like that, I don't know. It's a good, interesting question. I don't know why I don't know if he would have aborted or what. When is my book coming out? I don't know. Books take time to get published, but it's finished. I think Cooper did a few dry runs, honestly. Yeah. Whatever happened to Florence Schaffner? Is she still alive? Yes. Her name is Florence Wheeler. Her husband was a college football coach. She married a guy in 75 or 76, and she became Flo Wheeler. Tina Mucklow got married and became Tina Larson. Alice was already married. Alice had been married less than a month when the hijacking happened to Jim Hancock. And her husband actually is the one who determined for Northwest Airlines. Alice's husband was a skydiver, and Alice herself had been skydiving. And she discusses parachutes with Cooper, but she cannot remember what they discussed. And that's actually in the FBI files. Just a little blurb. It's like, Mrs. Hancock talked to Cooper about parachutes or whatever. And like, well, what did they discuss? We don't know. And Alice can't remember these days, but Alice can remember that she thought that Cooper was familiar with parachutes, because she was able to, from her talking to him, because again, her husband was a skydiver. From her talk, and she had made solo jumps herself. There were no tandem jumps back then, so she had made solo jumps. She had jumped out of a plane with a parachute before. Stewardess Alice Hancock. She discussed parachutes with Cooper. We don't know what they discussed, but whatever it was enough to make Alice, for the rest of her life, and she's still alive, think that Cooper knew what he was doing. She kind of, her and her husband both would scoff at the idea whenever TV shows would come on saying Cooper died. She was like, no way. Tina joined a Catholic institution and became a sister. Yeah, she was a Lutheran growing up, I think. And I guess she converted to Catholicism. Or are there Lutheran nuns? Maybe she's a Lutheran. Maybe she wasn't a Catholic nun. Or maybe that was a non-denominational nunnery or something. I don't know. I forget what that sister place where she went to was. I don't know what kind of nunnery that was. But she Wasn't because she was crazy or anything. Tina was always religious. Flo complained that when they were at hotels together, that Tina used to proselytize. That Tina used to try to proselytize to Flo. And because Tina was so religious, that's why we have this myth that this photograph here is of Tina holding a Bible. Where is it? Yeah. So this is often mislabeled because Tina became a nun and Tina was religious. This is her getting off the plane holding. If you say Tina wasn't affected, Tina wasn't in on it. Look, she has a wad of tissues in her hand. Okay, she's crying. All right, so poor girl. But people say that's a Bible. No, it's actually a biography on Mary, the Queen of Scots, was what she was reading, and she made sure to take her book with her, which I think. Look, Tina was valedictorian of her high school class. Tina was a go-getter. You know, I have that photograph of Tina from. Oh, I thought I had that photograph somewhere of Tina when she was in high school. Could have sworn I had that somewhere. But anyway, yeah, she was valedictorian of her class. She was here. There we go. Yeah, here's Tina's yearbook photo when she was a senior. A valedictorian and skipped college to go be a flight attendant for Northwest. That's what she wanted to do. She loved being in the air. That was kind of her thing. Yeah, that's definitely not a Catholic Bible. Yes, it's a book on Mary, Queen of Scots. But yeah, Tina's a smart girl. Still is, I'm sure. I mean, I think she has like a master's or something she has a master's degree in like social work or something. So she has a good heart. Tina's a good girl. That's a good point. Yep, Mary, you're probably right. The historical tome was probably shut in the same cubbyhole with her purse. I bet it was too. Is there a longer form video of the crew in front of the press anywhere to see? Good question there. I actually have written many letters or emails to the news stations up there saying, hey, do you have an archive of this somewhere? Do you have that entire press conference somewhere? Because all we see are the same clips of Tina saying, you know, he was nice or whatever. But I mean, it's a long press conference, so that video exists, but I've asked for it. So okay. Wouldn't Cooper want to have his dominant hand near his mystery bag where he could access his handgun? Well, his mystery bag was under his seat. I'm pretty sure. In fact, the reason I think that is because Flo never saw the mystery bag, doesn't remember it. Alice does not remember it. The only passenger who remembers the mystery bag, two of them, Bill remembers the mystery bag, and Nancy House. Nancy House saw the mystery bag when Cooper got up to go to the bathroom. Cooper goes to the bathroom. He picks up his briefcase, like a pizza box, they said. And on top of it was the mystery bag that was about the same width as the briefcase, a little bit smaller than the width, and about 4 inches tall, they said. So, and he carries it like a pizza box with the bag on top of the briefcase. And so she sees it then, but Bill noticed the mystery bag because Bill in his 302 in his interview says the guy had a paper bag with him. So I speculate, I'm speculating, but I speculate that he put the bag under his seat. So Bill's angle, Bill's got a unique angle to Cooper, right? Bill is side profile whole time, from a side profile from a distance. That's why Bill was able to see the turkey gobble and no other passengers did, because he saw Cooper from the side profile from a distance. Tina was so close to Cooper, I don't think she saw the turkey neck because for one thing, she wasn't really looking at him, but she was pretty close to him. Yeah, you need some distance to see the turkey neck really well, right? But from his vantage point, seat 18B on that aisle, in that seat, I think he could see under Cooper's chair and see that there was a bag under his seat. So, Flo and Alice missed that bag. They didn't see it because it was under his seat. And even Tina, it caught Tina by surprise, it sounds like. Because Tina says that around the time that he sends her to the front, this bag comes out of nowhere. She says, she says, about this time he had a bag that, so I think it was under his seat. He just pulled it out. So she doesn't mention the bag until like very close to the end with him, which again, whatever was in the bag was not used during the actual hijacking part of it. So whatever was in the bag would have been used for his escape or for his jump. So remember, folks, Cooper, I have him, little Coop's dressed like that, but we have no idea what Cooper looked like when he jumped. He was back there for 30 minutes. Could have had boots in there, goggles, gloves, a beanie. We have no idea, altimeter. We have no idea what Cooper looked like when he jumped. So we just think. I keep reading mentions that the Stews were trained to deal with hijackers. Where and when was that done in a manual? In-person classes. They had in-person classes. They actually, we met one of the flight attendants, former Northwest Orient stewardess who worked with Flo and Tina and Alice. She was a interpreter, like a guide at the Seattle, at the Boeing Museum there in Museum of Flight. I didn't see her this year, but last year, she said that Mossad trained them. They had like a training day class for terrorists or hijackers, and these guys from Israel were like, in each, they taught them, if you had a bomb, where to put a bomb on a plane. So on a 727, on a 747, so all the planes that they flew, Mossad showed them, this is the best spot to put a bomb. So if it explodes, it won't bring the plane down. And to put blankets all around it. So like if there's a bomb on your plane, shove it in this spot here and cover it with blankets and pillows. And it shouldn't knock your plane out of the sky if it goes off. So that they did have training on that for sure. So anyway, okay, well, my voice is giving out, folks, so I have got to go. So it was Chrissy, yeah, you caught it at the end, Chrissy. So I've been on for 3.5 hours, Chrissy. Sorry. That stinks, but Chrissy goes, I caught it. Well, late, I guess. Anyway, will I ever have a Cooper Fest in the East? That's a good idea. Our Cooper is going to be in Vancouver next year, but there's no reason we can't have one in Boston or somewhere. Why not? So sure. I mean, New York, that'd be fun. Actually, that might be a good idea to mix it up. Why not? Have one in Minneapolis. I don't know, that's where Northwest Oregon is. You could have one at the museum there. Anyway, okay, guys. Well, I got to go because I've been chatting by myself for 3.5 hours. So I hope you enjoyed that. And like and subscribe to my video. Make sure to like my video about where I pwn Dan Gryder with actual evidence. And I will talk to you fellas again soon. Bye.